From a blind date came a sister who is a CEO. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 876 Confession. As the pictures appeared one by one, Su Weifeng couldn't help but laugh. His heart was moved, and a sweet feeling surged into his heart. At this moment, Su Weifeng's mind rang loudly, and he entered that magical state again. Su Weifeng was also shocked. He didn't expect that his feelings for Chu Xiaotu were so deep that he could enter this state. I don't know. When Chu Xiaotu woke up, she felt heavy on her face. When she opened her eyes, she found that the boss's hand was on her face. Chu Xiaotu subconsciously wanted to scream, but when she thought it was the boss, she felt a little happy in her heart. And it seemed that the boss was asleep, so Chu Xiaotu didn't move. She just opened her big eyes and looked at the boss. It would be nice to be with the boss every day. The boss is rich and has status. Xiangli has to give face to the boss. Moreover, after such a long time of contact, he is not the kind of rich bad guy. He didn't do anything to me, even though I'm so beautiful. I have lived together for such a long time. If I want to find opportunities, there are still many. The most important thing is that he is very good to me. He even gave me the bracelet on my wrist, which is something I can't afford in several lifetimes. The more I think about it, the more I feel that the boss is my dream lover. Although the boss is not the tall and handsome Prince Charming type, he is much more manly than the pretty boy. If it was before, my ideal type would be the tall and handsome idol star, but now I think about it, if I have to choose between that boy and the boss, I will definitely choose the boss. Midnight is the time when people are most relaxed. At this time, away from the hustle and bustle, the world is quiet, and people are most likely to take off their disguises and show their true thoughts. Now Chu Xiaotu finally faced the secret in her heart. She really likes the boss, this seemingly ordinary and mysterious man. But the boss is such an excellent man. There must be many women throwing themselves into his arms. There must be no shortage of women. So what am I in the boss's heart? Chu Xiaotu, who just figured out that she likes the boss, became worried again. Su Weifeng felt that it had been a long time since he recovered. He didn't expect that the recovery effect would be so good. Could it be because he hadn't been in this state for a long time since he left Lin Zhuangxuan and the others? The more Su Weifeng thought about it, the more he thought that it was the case. Su Weifeng slowly opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Chu Xiaotu staring at him blankly. Her eyes didn't move, but it seemed that she was not looking at herself, but looking through her to the distance. She was obviously thinking about something. Ah, boss, are you awake? Chu Xiaotu realized that Su Weifeng had woken up. Su Weifeng quickly took his hand off Chu Xiaotu's face. Boss, let me ask you a question. Chu Xiaotu said nervously, her voice trembling. What's the question? Ask it. Su Weifeng said doubtfully, as if he had a guess in his heart. Boss, do you like Xiaotu? Chu Xiaotu was silent for a few seconds, and then she mustered up the courage to say it. Chu Xiaotu's words startled Su Weifeng, but it was also within his expectations. He was thinking about how to answer Chu Xiaotu. Xiaotu is so cute. Of course I like her. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Although Su Weifeng said he liked her, it felt like he was treating her like a child. This was not the answer Chu Xiaotu wanted. Boss, I like you. Do you like me? Chu Xiaotu risked her life, her voice no longer trembling. She stared at Su Weifeng's eyes and said directly, I like you, too. Su Weifeng hesitated for a moment, smiled bitterly and said that Chu Xiaotu had been forced to this point, and he couldn't avoid it anymore. Really? Chu Xiaotu widened her eyes in surprise and asked again. I really like you. Su Weifeng confirmed with a smile, but there was some bitterness in his smile. Then why don't you confess to me? I have to confess to you. Are you a man? Chu Xiaotu felt relieved, and her heart was filled with sweetness. She complained. I can't be responsible for you. It's better for us to keep our distance. Su Weifeng sighed and said. Chu Xiaotu felt like a bolt of lightning struck her from the blue sky. Her mind went blank. She just flew up and fell to the ground. Did he have a girlfriend or a wife and children? What was she then? A mistress? She would never be a mistress, no matter how much she liked him. This was the moral bottom line of a kind girl. Su Weifeng saw that Chu Xiaotu was silent and knew that she might have been wrong. I already have a girlfriend, and not just one. As soon as Su Weifeng said this, Chu Xiaotu slapped him hard on the face. Su Weifeng vaguely saw crystal tears in Chu Xiaotu's eyes. Scumbag, there is no good thing about men. Chu Xiaotu cried and thought Su Weifeng was a playboy who played with girls and feelings everywhere. Things are a little complicated. It's not as simple as you think. Listen to me first. Su Weifeng sighed and said. Chu Xiaotu snorted coldly. She had never had a boyfriend before. It was her first confession, but she didn't expect this result. This was a result she would never dream of. The story starts with my profession. I'm a soldier in the special forces. Su Weifeng picked up the public information and said that there was no secret involved. Chu Xiaotu didn't expect Su Weifeng to have so many secrets. She didn't expect that he was not the young master of the family, but a soldier. She couldn't help but listen carefully. My unit is dedicated to special missions, and the mortality rate is also very high. I suffered serious internal injuries during a mission, and had to leave the army and return home to recuperate. When I just returned home, my family forced me to go on a blind date. I met later. I discovered the secret of recovery from injuries. That is, when I really fall in love with a girl, I will enter that magical state and can't move at all. Su Weifeng narrated seriously and told Chu Xiaotu about the general situation after he returned home. Of course, he didn't talk about the enemies he encountered and some family disputes. Those had nothing to do with what he wanted to say. These girls really like me, even though I can't make promises to anyone, and the time we spend together won't exceed 2 years at most. They still want to be with me. Lin Zhuangxuan even took the initiative to let me contact other girls so that I can recover more from my injuries. Sister Zhuangxuan is such a kind girl, and she has deep feelings for you. Chu Xiaotu was also very moved after listening to Su Weifeng's story. She was a kind girl to begin with. When she thought of those girls, she could easily understand them, especially Lin Zhuangxuan, who should be regarded as Su Weifeng's first real girlfriend. In order for her boyfriend to survive, she turned the selfish love into selfless love. Did you enter that state just now? Thinking of Su Weifeng's hand on her face just now, Chu Xiaotu suddenly thought of something and asked uncertainly. Chapter 877 Gymnasium. Yeah. Su Weifeng nodded, confirming Chu Xiaotu's idea. Although Chu Xiaotu had already guessed, she still cried out in surprise. Through Su Weifeng's narration, Chu Xiaotu knew that Su Weifeng needed to be in that state to really have feelings, not just simply like. For example, it took a long time for several girls like Sun Yumeng to have that kind of feelings. Doesn't this mean that his feelings for her are real, and he likes her deeply? Chu Xiaotu was happy, but also very conflicted. She had never thought about sharing a boyfriend with many girls, and she didn't know what to do for a while. However, when she thought that Su Weifeng still had more than a year left, and he might even return to the army at any time, and the mission he would perform at that time would be the kind of mission that could cost him his life at any time, just like coming to Galan. Although Su Weifeng didn't tell her the reason, Chu Xiaotu was very smart and immediately thought of it. When she first came here in a foreign country, the enemies she met were all legendary big men like Xiang Yi. This shows that he really risked his life to complete the mission. He didn't belong to any woman, but only to the country. Did she want him to die? I don't want to. If being with him can increase his chances of survival, will I be with him? Yes. Isn't liking him just liking him to be happy? Not to mention that it involves life and death. Besides, I really like him. Even if I can be with him for a short time, I won't have any regrets. After thinking about this, Chu Xiaotu also made her own decision. I'm willing to be your girlfriend. I don't care about forever, I only care about having it once. Chu Xiaotu looked into Su Weifeng's eyes, and her firm words also represented her firm heart. Su Weifeng smiled bitterly. He understood Chu Xiaotu's intentions. He just told her that to let her make her own choice. Chu Xiaotu really chose to be his girlfriend, even if she shared it with others, even if she didn't get any promises, she still insisted on being with him. This made Su Weifeng very moved, and he hugged Chu Xiaotu tightly. Chu Xiaotu got into Su Weifeng's bed and hugged him together. It was warm, comfortable, and safe. Su Weifeng smelled the light fragrance of Chu Xiaotu, and his heart was also sweet. This is a smell of love. What should I do? I don't know. Chu Xiaotu said shyly. She knew that, since they were already in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, something would definitely happen. If she was with Su Weifeng, she would not mind, even if there was no future. Chu Xiaotu's face was already red, and the temperature of her body was rising. Silly girl, what time is it now? What we have to do now is to sleep. How could Su Weifeng not know Chu Xiaotu's thoughts, and said with a smile. Chu Xiaotu didn't expect Su Weifeng to have such a reaction, and now the two of them are already in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Su Weifeng hugged Chu Xiaotu again, and this time Chu Xiaotu's tense body slowly relaxed. She enjoyed the feeling of being cared for very much, rubbed against Su Weifeng's arms, found a more comfortable position, and fell asleep with an excited smile. Su Weifeng hugged Chu Xiaotu, and couldn't help but sigh, and implicated another kind girl. The next morning, when Su Weifeng woke up, he saw Chu Xiaotu looking at him with a smile, and hugging him tightly. You're holding me so tightly, because you're afraid I'll run away. Su Weifeng said with a smile. You're mine now, so you have to take good care of my things. Chu Xiaotu said proudly, and her face didn't blush this time. Okay, you're not enough. After hugging me all night, get up and eat quickly. I have to go out later. Su Weifeng touched Chu Xiaotu's head and smiled gently. Where are you going? Chu Xiaotu frowned and said. It's the girl from yesterday, who is also a friend I met recently. Her family arranged a marriage for her. I helped her deceive the man, and said that she already had a boyfriend, but the man would definitely not let it go so easily. Su Weifeng roughly told Chu Xiaotu about the situation. When Chu Xiaotu heard that Xia Bing's family used her happiness as a bargaining chip for the family's interests, she was also indignant, and told Su Weifeng to help the girl, and beat the man up. This kind girl is really kind-hearted. She was not angry, because she pretended to be Xia Bing's boyfriend. Instead, she was worried about Xia Bing coming. Su Weifeng sighed. What a good girl. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Su Weifeng appeared on time at the gymnasium of Xia Bing's university. Today's taekwondo competition was held here. Su Weifeng called Xia Bing and Xia Bing came out soon. At this time, Xia Bing had changed into a taekwondo uniform and tied a shiny black belt around her waist. This is also the highest level black belt in taekwondo. Xia Bing is now a second degree black belt and can go to a general dojo to be a coach. You really came. I thought you wouldn't come. Xia Bing frowned and said. The competition inside had already started. She had been paying attention to the people in the gymnasium and didn't see Su Weifeng. She thought that Su Weifeng went back yesterday to think about it and didn't come. Although she was a little disappointed, she was relieved. Wang Zhengtai was not a person who would give up easily. He didn't expect Su Weifeng to really come. How can I regret what I promised you? Su Weifeng said with a smile. Let's go in. Be careful. Xia Bing said. Su Weifeng said it was okay and followed Xia Bing inside. After entering, he found that there were quite a few people watching the game. There was a ring in the middle. There were two girls fighting on it. You did a 360-degree move and she did a double move. The fight was intense. There were circles of chairs around the ring. Su Weifeng took a rough look and saw that there were at least 200 or 300 people. Su Weifeng followed Xia Bing to the first row and sat down. The first row was full of people from the Taekwondo club and some from the student union. Su Weifeng, why are you here? As soon as he sat down, he heard a girl's voice. Su Weifeng turned around and saw that it was Xia King, and next to her were Wang Yui and Shen Zhao, the eldest son of the Shen family. I'm here to watch the game, too. Su Weifeng said with a smile, and nodded to Wang Yui and Shen Zhao, frightening Shen Zhao to say hello. Su Weifeng was now a demon in his heart. He would hide if he could, and if he couldn't, he would not let him notice him. There was really no other way, and he couldn't make this demon unhappy. Wang Yui was also a little afraid of Su Weifeng. She had just been chatting happily with Shen Zhao, but now she was concentrating on staring at the two girls on the ring and didn't dare to speak. How do you know Bingbing has a game today? Xia King frowned. He now knew that Su Weifeng was not a liar and his grandfather had really been treated a lot better by him, but he still didn't want to see Xia Bing and him together, always feeling that he was not a good match. I told him, he is my boyfriend now. Xia Bing answered for Su Weifeng. What? Bingbing, you are with him? Xia King said in surprise. Wang are you? I looked at Xia Bing in surprise, but soon accepted it. She saw them flirting with each other in the KTV at that time, and felt that something was going on. It was indeed the case. Xia King sighed inwardly, realizing that she couldn't stop her best friend. Chapter 878 Challenge. Shen Zhao saw Su Weifeng and Chu Xiaotu together at the university town bar that day, but he didn't dare to say anything. Besides, as a young master of a family, he didn't care much about such things. Which young master only has one woman by his side? Even if he is married, he has to go out and try new things, not to mention that they are just boyfriend and girlfriend. Seeing Su Weifeng nod secretly, well, they are like-minded. Xia Bing didn't explain anything. She knew that if she explained, it would soon reach Wang Zhengtai's ears, and then all her previous efforts would be wasted. It would be even more difficult to get rid of him in the future. Besides, she was cold by nature and didn't want to explain. It was her own business, so let others think whatever they wanted. Seeing Xia Bing's look, Xia King didn't ask any more questions. She knew her bestie, and it was useless to ask if she didn't want to say anything. Today was the women's competition, and soon it was Xia Bing's turn. Xia Bing's opponent was a strong and sturdy girl with great strength, but her flexibility was much worse than Xia Bing's. After a few encounters, she was knocked out by Xia Bing's high kick to the head. But, Wang are you? I screamed. Bingbing, I love you, Xia Bing's fans screamed. The audience cheered. In a match between two strangers, everyone would hope that the beauty would win, which is also the advantage of the beauty. With the end of Xia Bing's match, today's competition also came to an end. The audience was preparing to leave one after another, but a 1.85 meter tall strong man wearing a compression shirt walked onto the stage. Everyone, don't leave yet. Today, a master has come to the field. He is here for our beautiful Xia Bing. Xia Bing is the flower of our Taekwondo club. Not everyone can think of her. Since you have the courage to come, you will not be without the courage to go to the ring. Let's see what strength you have to chase our beautiful Xia. The strong man said loudly. When the audience heard that this was a duel for a girl, they were excited and hurried back to their seats. This was much more interesting than the game. It's Zheng Yang, a senior in the Taekwondo club. He is a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. I haven't heard that he is pursuing beautiful Xia Bing. Why is he dueling with someone? A student in the audience asked in confusion. You don't know this, right? Although he is not the pursuer of Miss Xia, Wang Xiao is. Zheng Yang is with Wang Xiao. It must be because of Wang Xiao. A student guessed the reason at once. It's terrible for this kid to offend Wang Xiao. He is the eldest son of the Wang family. I just don't know if this kid is also a young master of the family. If so, it will be a good show to watch when two young masters of the family fight each other. A student said. Su Weifeng, how did you offend Wang Xiao? He is not a simple person. Xia King frowned. This Su Weifeng is really a troublemaker. Wherever he goes, he offends others, especially young masters of the family. Su Weifeng smiled and looked at Xia Bing. Xia King understood what was going on at once. Looking at Xia Bing helplessly, it was really not Su Weifeng who took the initiative to cause trouble, but it was hard to be with a beautiful woman without trouble. Boy, you dare to pursue Miss Xia, why don't you dare to come up? If you are a wimp, get out of here as soon as possible, and don't think about our Miss Xia. Zheng Yang looked at Su Weifeng. Obviously, Wang Zhengtai had told him which one was Su Weifeng. Who is it? Why don't I see him? Said the student at the back. It's the guy next to Miss Xia. He must be related to Miss Xia, otherwise why would he sit next to Miss Xia? Which department is he from? Why don't I seem to have seen him before? You want to challenge me too? Su Weifeng stood up slowly, smiling at Zheng Yang, with a disdainful expression on his face. It's him. He doesn't look that good, thin and small. Someone said in the audience. Su Weifeng is not actually thin, but has very strong muscles. But compared to Zheng Yang, who is 1.85 meters tall and weighs more than 200 kilograms, he is indeed thin. It's over. This guy's going to be unlucky. But he is very arrogant. Maybe he can beat Zheng Yang. A boy with glasses said. What's the use of being arrogant? No matter how fierce Teddy is, can he beat you? A boy in basketball uniform said with a basketball. How can Teddy compete with me? I will beat Teddy. Why don't you go and fight Teddy? The boy with glasses said angrily. He and the basketball boy are friends, and he knows that his friend is joking, so he didn't really get angry. Haha, but this kid is just asking for trouble by playing with Zheng Yang. If he can win, I will eat the basketball. The basketball boy said while holding his basketball. Oh, we heard it. The boy from a dormitory in a row turned around and said with a smirk. I heard it too. I heard it too. The classmates around him started to make a noise. The basketball boy was very disdainful because he couldn't possibly lose. He had seen Zheng Yang's game. Zheng Yang played against an opponent who was one level higher than him. He let the opponent attack him. Even when the opponent was out of breath, he was still like nothing happened and kicked the opponent out of the ring. He was absolutely ruthless. Boy, come up if you have the guts. Zheng Yang shouted loudly, with a smile on his face. He was afraid that Su Weifeng would not talk to him. As long as he came out, he was 100% sure that he would let him go out lying down. Why didn't young Master Wang come out and throw you out? Su Weifeng said with a smile, not caring at all. If you want me to fight, you have to defeat Zheng Yang first. Wang Zhengtai walked up to the ring from the other side, walked to Zheng Yang's side, and looked at Su Weifeng provocatively. Don't you want to be Xia Bing's boyfriend? I want to see what you are capable of. If you don't have the ability, get out of here and don't hang around Xia Bing. Otherwise I will watch you every day and beat you up every time I see you. Wang Zhengtai raised his fist and said to Su Weifeng viciously. Wang Zhengtai is also a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo, but he is stronger than Zheng Yang. He came to this university later and just joined the Taekwondo club for Xia Bing. He just came to compete with Zheng Yang. His fancy kicking combo stunned Zheng Yang, and he almost knocked him out in the end. As soon as they saw Wang Zhengtai on the stage, Shen Zhao and the others became nervous. The Wang family was much more powerful than the Shen family. This was a local family in Galan, and Shen Zhao did not dare to offend them. He subconsciously moved to the side, wanting to be farther away from Su Weifeng's position, so as not to be misunderstood by Wang Zhengtai. Xia King and Xia Bing knew that Wang Zhengtai's level was very high, and they could not help but look at Su Weifeng with worry. Although Su Weifeng was very good at fighting, most of the people he fought were ordinary people, but Wang Zhengtai was different. Even Zheng Yang, who was weaker than him, was not a simple character. He was a third-degree black belt, which was rare at this age. At the black belt stage, it was quite difficult to upgrade each degree. Su Weifeng smiled and walked towards the ring step by step, without any tension, just like taking a walk after dinner. Look, that guy really went up. His courage is commendable, but he is dead. A student who competed with Master Wang for a woman had his leg broken. It seems that Master Wang wants to assert his sovereignty today. He wants to destroy this guy in the ring and let everyone know that Xia Bing is his woman. Let's see who dares to snatch her. A student mocked Tacitus feebly. Second brother, don't think about it. A beauty of Xia Bing's level is not something you can think about. Don't get into trouble. The rumored advised. Alas, I know that. Even if school beauty Xia is willing to be with me, I don't have confidence. People like us from ordinary families can't even be supporting roles when we are with school beauty Xia. The male student sighed, feeling helpless. Chapter 879, The Power of a Kick. This kid is really brave. He doesn't look like a rich man from his clothes. He dares to compete with the young master of the Wang family. The male student just now continued. I guess he hasn't seen much of the world and doesn't know about the affairs of this family. It's not as simple as being rich. His roommate sighed. I really hope to see him beat young Master Wang down. Although I can't get the school beauty Xia, it's exciting just to think about it. It's not like you beat young Master Wang down. Look at how excited you are. Besides, young Master Wang is a third-degree black belt. let alone young Master Wang. He can't even beat that Zheng Yang. It's good that he can walk out by himself today, the roommate said disdainfully. The students below were all talking about this kid who didn't know how to live or die. Some sympathized with him, some were waiting to see a good show, and some were also looking forward to a miracle and seeing the scene of the young masters of the rich second generation families being beaten. I'll beat this big guy down, and then I'll fight you. Su Weifeng had already walked to the ring and looked at Wang Zhengtai calmly. Think about how to survive Zheng Yang's hands first. Wang Zhengtai sneered. He couldn't force Xia Bing to be with him, but he could make other men afraid to be with Xia Bing. Since this man dared to go against him, he had to pay the price. He had already told Zheng Yang that a reward of $100,000 would be given for breaking a leg. This was not a small amount for ordinary people. Zheng Yang happily agreed. He didn't expect this man to be so valuable. If he broke a few ribs, would he be even more valuable? The number of ribs could be more. However, if Su Weifeng knew that he was only worth this little money, he would be speechless. Whether it was his worth or the price of the leader of the mercenary world who offered him a bounty, it was incomparable to Wang Zhengtai's offer. It was not even a fraction, and it could be ignored directly. Boy, your opponent is me. Let me break your legs now. Zheng Yang clenched his fists and creaked, smiling sinisterly. Wang Zhengtai stepped aside, waiting to see how Su Weifeng was tortured to kneel down and beg for mercy. Be careful. Xia Bing yelled nervously, very worried. Shen Zhao's face was gloomy, and gradually he smiled. This kid made him lose face in front of his friends and girlfriend. He had no chance to take revenge. If he could see Wang Xiao and his friends beat this kid up today, he would be able to get rid of his anger and be proud of himself in front of his friends. At least, he would let others know that the kid was just an ordinary person. Even if he was good at fighting, it would be useless. He could only kneel down when he met his family members. Xiao Qing's heart moved, and she suddenly remembered the level of warriors her grandfather said. Internal warriors were higher than external warriors. Zheng Yang was obviously the external warrior her grandfather said. Grandpa said not to look at those external warriors because they were big, they were just human sandbags, and internal warriors could easily defeat them. According to her grandfather, Su Weifeng's internal force was already very strong, so could he defeat Zheng Yang? She originally believed what her grandfather said, but when she really saw the two opponents with such a huge difference in size on the field, she couldn't help but wonder. Boy, are you ready? Zheng Yang stretched his muscles and then took a taekwondo stance. Come on. Su Weifeng casually hooked his finger. Zheng Yang had a cruel smile on his face. He swung his right leg horizontally. His thigh, which was as thick as a girl's waist, drove his muscular calf and swept it towards Su Weifeng's head with a sound of breaking wind. If this kick hit, most people would probably faint on the spot and suffer a concussion. The audience in the first row seemed to be able to hear the sound of wind brought by Zheng Yang's kick. This power and speed were completely incomparable to the competitions of those girls just now. Even the international competitions on TV were no better. The students all felt the power of this kick. Xia Bing, it's over. This Zheng Yang is too strong. He is even stronger than the last time I saw him compete. This is not a competition. This is a murder. Su Weifeng will definitely not be able to dodge it. Hurry up and hide. Why are you still standing? Hurry up and hide. Xia Bing was so anxious that she couldn't bear it anymore. Her thoughts were spinning rapidly in an instant. Xiao Qing. How do warriors with internal force fight? Why doesn't he dodge? Why doesn't he dodge? Shen Zhao. Good kick. I'll let you be arrogant, but you have to pay a price for being arrogant. Go to hell. Shen Zhao's face was ferocious, with a cruel smile. The audience held their breath, waiting for Su Weifeng to fall under this kick. Zheng Yang was also very satisfied with his kick. This was his full strength attack. He didn't believe that this kid could dodge it. He was confident that with this kick, even if this kid didn't faint, he would have a concussion. Wang Zhengtai smiled cruelly, waiting to see Su Weifeng being shot in the head. He was not going to let Su Weifeng go after such a game. He would definitely get hurt if he was beaten. If he was injured, he would go to the hospital. Then he would send people to the hospital to chase him. By then, you can't even stand up, and you still want to protect yourself? I have to kill you. The more I think about it, the more proud I am. But the scene on the field immediately made everyone open their mouths wide. Su Weifeng did not leave the spot at all, nor did he retreat. He just gently stretched out a hand, gently put it beside his head, and accurately hit Zheng Yang's right foot. Su Weifeng seemed casual, but in fact his hand was infused with true Qi, and the hardness was no less than steel. This was also the method of using true Qi that he learned after contacting Han Liu and other internal force warriors. Zheng Yang's kick was ineffective and was easily hit by Su Weifeng. He endured the severe pain in his foot and felt like he was hit by a steel pipe. He almost cried out in pain. Zibing. Su Weifeng actually blocked it. He actually blocked Zheng Yang's full strength attack. Zibing's face was full of shock, and at the same time, she was ecstatic in her heart. She was ready to call the emergency number. King. It's really strong, but I didn't see how he broke Zheng Yang's move. It was too casual to just hit him. Shenzhou. How is it possible? Zheng Yang, this waste, has grown so much flesh in vain. Is that guy a monster? Wang Zhengtai. He actually blocked it? He would not fight Zheng Yang's kick head on. He would avoid it first, and then find a chance to counterattack. How did he do that? Did Zheng Yang let him win? That shouldn't be the case. The price he offered was enough to make him excited. What happened? Wang Zhengtai frowned. He blocked it. He really blocked it. The boy with glasses said excitedly. It only blocked one kick. It's still a long way to go. The boy holding the basketball said disdainfully. HMPH, just prepare to eat the basketball. The boy with glasses snorted coldly. Oh, I was just thinking about how to eat it. Should I eat it raw, braised, or steamed? Oh, but these two people didn't give me a chance. Oh, what a pity. The basketball boy twisted his body and said with an expression that he deserved a beating. Su Weifeng smiled and stretched out his finger at Zheng Yang, nakedly provoking him. Zheng Yang was even more angry when he saw it. He was already very embarrassed by the kick that was sure to win just now, so how could he bear such a provocation? Zheng Yang took a step forward, jumped slightly, and made a side kick with his left foot. Before his body hit the ground, he made another side kick with his right foot, a perfect double kick. Su Weifeng still slapped the opponent like swatting a fly, kicking left and right, easily resolving all of Zheng Yang's attacks. Chapter 880, Surrender. Zheng Yang's heart was raging, and he tried his best. His legs were like a hot wheel, flying up and down the ring, and his moves were always aimed at Su Weifeng. Zheng Yang's kicks were getting faster and faster, and the students in the audience could no longer keep up with the rhythm. 360 degrees downward chop. Another backspin. 504 damn, I can't tell what kind of kicks it is anymore. No, it's too fast. It's not a kick. It's almost flying. Why hasn't that man moved yet? Is it all fake moves that didn't hit? What's that sound? Why do I hear the sound of iron hammering? Am I hallucinating? The students in the audience were shocked by the fight between the two. Su Weifeng was fine. He just stood there and didn't move, and the students didn't think he was that strong. But Zheng Yang was different. With such a big body, he should have been a bulky tank type, but now he was like a nimble assassin, with two thighs like steel bars flying up and down, and he was really about to fly. Su Weifeng still had a smile on his face, looking at Zheng Yang calmly, without moving a step. His two hands flew up and down like two white butterflies, blocking all of Zheng Yang's attacks, and injecting his true energy into his hands. With such a fierce attack, Su Weifeng only felt a little bit of recoil force, and sighed in his heart. This is the difference between internal force warriors and external force warriors. Zheng Yang's speed gradually slowed down. Just now, he had already exploded to his limit. He believed that with just that kind of explosion, he would not have a problem getting the top 3 in Taekwondo in the school. However, this man was already smiling at him. The more he looked at this smile, the more evil it became, like the smile of a devil. Moreover, every kick of his seemed to hit the steel pipe. Just now, he gritted his teeth and held on in the state of explosion. In addition to the excitement, this kind of pain was still bearable, but it was not possible now. His speed was slow and the pain was becoming more and more obvious. The audience also noticed this. Zheng Yang seemed to have lost his physical strength and his movements were getting slower and slower. If this continued, he would have to stop soon. As expected, Zheng Yang finally stumbled, took a few steps back, and fell on the stage. What happened? The students were very confused. He won. Su Weifeng won. Xia Bing shouted excitedly, no longer in the usual image of an iceberg goddess. What did I see? The iceberg melted, and the goddess became more beautiful. That kid is so lucky. It seems that he is already with the beautiful Xia. If I could be with the beautiful Xia, I would be willing to live 10 years less. Is this the difference between internal force warriors and external force warriors? Su Weifeng's defense can't be broken at all, and Su Weifeng hasn't attacked yet. I didn't expect him to be so strong. Will I be so strong when I cultivate internal force in the future? Xia King whispered to herself, suddenly full of confidence in the future. Too strong. He didn't move at all, and Zheng Yang was exhausted by the beating. A student shouted. That was not a beating. Didn't you hear the clapping sound? Like pile driving. He blocked every kick of Zheng Yang. Someone who understood what was going on. Really? I think I heard it too. How is it possible? How can those little arms and legs fight Zheng Yang's thighs head on without getting hurt? How can he lose? How is it possible? He's a black belt 3rd degree weighing more than 200 pounds. He's a beast. Shen Zhao was already stunned, his face full of disbelief. Raw, is it better braised or raw? Why don't I give you some horseradish? It must be stimulating enough. The boy with eyes said with a smirk at the basketball boy. Yes, I'll buy you some wine. How can you eat delicious food without wine? Someone said on the side. I'm going to start a live broadcast. It will definitely be popular today. All the big eaters will stand aside. Let's eat raw basketballs. Brother, I have a feeling that you are going to be popular. A student next to him said excitedly. Everyone around him looked at the basketball boy with a sinister smile. The basketball boy wanted to slap himself in the face. Why is my mouth so bad? He laughed dryly like crying. Fortunately, someone in front shouted and attracted everyone's attention again. Zheng Yang tried hard to stand up on the ring, but he fell down again. As soon as he stood up, he felt a piercing pain in his feet and legs, and his face was covered with sweat. He was not only tired, but also in pain. At this time, someone in the front row noticed that, since Taekwondo is generally not done with shoes, Zheng Yang's 2 big feet were swollen like 2 big steamed buns, and there were bloodstains on his snow white trouser legs. Su Weifeng did not have any injuries on his body, let alone bleeding. There was only one explanation. Zheng Yang's calf was injured and still bleeding, but he didn't know how serious the injury was. Zheng Yang gritted his teeth at this moment. He had just tried to stand up, but he didn't succeed. He knew that his calf was probably injured, at least it was a fracture. He looked at Su Weifeng in fear. Who on earth was this person? Could he have a steel pipe hidden in his hand? But obviously this was impossible. What Zheng Yang regretted most now was that he agreed to Wang Zhengtai to deal with Su Weifeng. He didn't make any money, and he also lost his leg. He was going to injure Su Weifeng's leg, but ended up breaking his own leg. Thinking that Su Weifeng didn't attack, but was just defending. If he attacked, he would be seriously injured. He looked at Su Weifeng with more fear. How is it? Did I win? Su Weifeng smiled and said to Zheng Yang. I lost. Zheng Yang lowered his head and said in a low voice with gritted teeth. This guy lost a lot today. Zheng Yang's 2 friends came on stage and carried Zheng Yang down. Zheng Yang couldn't even stand up now, let alone walk. They wanted to send Zheng Yang to the hospital, but Zheng Yang stopped them. He still wanted to see what the result would be. In the end, could Wang Zhengtai deal with this kid, or would Wang Zhengtai end up like him? If that happened, it would not be bad. His face would not be lost so much. Boy, you are good, but don't think that you can beat me just because you can beat Zheng Yang. Wang Zhengtai walked to the ring with a gloomy face. Wang Zhengtai is here. It is said that he has been practicing Taekwondo since he was 8 years old. He learned it from a master from abroad and has learned the true teachings of the master. A student said, what do you mean 8 years old? It was 4 years old. It is said that he once subdued a wild boar with his bare hands. Another student said, is it true? It is said that even tigers dare not easily provoke wild boars. So Wang Zhengtai can beat tigers. A girl exclaimed. Wow, then this kid is really dead. Can he be as powerful as a tiger? The girl continued. How can he beat a tiger? I think he is just lying and bragging. A boy said disdainfully, obviously not interested in this Wang Zhengtai. I have a brother who used to be in Wang Zhengtai's school. I heard that he really kicked several people's legs and broke them. That's all true. He is quite cruel. A boy lowered his voice and said mysteriously. So fierce, but he was too ruthless. You don't know, he is the young master of the Wang family, not an ordinary person. Breaking someone's legs is useless. A male student snorted coldly, obviously very angry at this kind of rich second generation family. That's terrible. Even if this kid defeats Wang Zhengtai, it won't be good. These family members have bodyguards, and those are even more experts. The lowest ones have to be retired soldiers in the army, and they have been on the battlefield and killed people. Chapter 881. Kill with one move. Hey, where's basketball brother? The boy with the eyes looked back and saw that he was gone and asked in confusion. Yeah, he was here just now. Another person also said in confusion. He must have taken advantage of the chaos to run away. He really dared to eat basketball? Ha ha ha. Maybe he went back to braise basketball. Ha 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 ha. The students were discussing fiercely. It was worth coming here today. This duel was much more exciting than watching this game. Some people have already sent out the video of the game. How is it? Wang Xiao, it's time for you to take action yourself. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Your biggest mistake is to offend me. Don't be too proud too early. I'm different from Zheng Yang. Today I must break your legs and let you spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair. Wang Zhengtai said viciously. He hated Su Weifeng to the core, especially because he had just defeated Zheng Yang, which made many students stand on his side and cheer for him. This is something Wang Zhengtai cannot tolerate. He wants to step on him in front of everyone, step on him hard, make him lose face, and become a laughing stock of everyone, so that he can relieve his hatred. Wang Zhengtai is finished. He can't beat an internal force warrior, unless he is also an internal force warrior, but this is impossible. Taekwondo is obviously an external force warrior. It's just that Su Weifeng has completely offended the Wang family. It will be difficult to deal with it next. The Wang family is bound to lose face, and then there will be crazy revenge. He hasn't cured Grandpa's injury yet, so nothing can happen now. Xia King muttered softly, very worried in her heart. She was worried about Su Weifeng, but she was more worried about her grandfather. However, she couldn't do anything. She wanted to call her grandfather, but after knowing this situation, her grandfather would definitely help Su Weifeng, the life-saving benefactor, with all his strength. But the Han family in Galan does not have the strength to fight against the Wang family, which would harm the Han family. Unlike Xia King's weighing of the pros and cons, Xia Bing was really worried about Su Weifeng. She regretted her decision last night more and more. If she hadn't brought Su Weifeng here temporarily, Wang Zhengtai would not have done anything to her. Even if he pestered her, he would not have used force. At most, he would have put pressure on his family. She would not be in any danger in the short term. But now it was too late. No matter whether Su Weifeng won or lost today, the Wang family would not allow Su Weifeng to continue to exist in Jialan. It was very likely that they would kill him secretly. This was what Xia Bing was most worried about. If that happened, she would really feel guilty for the rest of her life. Come on, Su Weifeng. A male student shouted below. They had heard the name Xia Bing had just shouted. Now Su Weifeng was the representative of these ordinary students, representing the duel between ordinary students and those rich second generations from their families. Come on, Su Weifeng. Wang Zhengtai looked in the direction of the boy angrily, with a sinister look on his face, wanting to see who dared to cheer for that boy. Under his tyranny, the boy lowered his head and shrank in the crowd, not daring to shout again. Wang Zhengtai snorted coldly, very disdainful. But then, the voices cheering for Su Weifeng in the distance started to rise one after another. Wang Zhengtai looked over and saw that the students didn't seem to see him this time. The voices cheering became more and more. The whole stadium was boiling with people shouting for Su Weifeng. Wang Zhengtai was dumbfounded and looked at the students cheering helplessly. However, there were too many of them, and he couldn't afford to provoke the public anger. He could only vent his anger on Su Weifeng. Shen Zhao also looked at the students behind him in surprise. Are they crazy? They actually cheered for Su Weifeng. Aren't they afraid of Wang Zhengtai's revenge? But soon he found that it was not only the students behind him, but also people in his circle who started shouting and cheering for Su Weifeng with those students. Come on, Su Weifeng. Wang Yui also shouted with her bestie. Come on, Su Weifeng. Shen Zhao shouted softly. He found that everyone in his circle started to cheer for Su Weifeng. As the number one person in this circle, he would be excluded if he didn't cheer at this time. He also shouted softly. However, as he was shouting, he found that shouting with everyone seemed particularly enjoyable. The whole audience was of the same voice, and they all resonated. Shen Zhao also shouted loudly, and the more he shouted, the more excited he felt. Wang Zhengtai was already upset by the shouting, and rushed towards Su Weifeng. He wanted to vent all his anger on Su Weifeng. He wanted to slap not only Su Weifeng's face, but also everyone in the audience. This time, Su Weifeng did not stand there and passively take the beating. The smile on his face remained. He also took a step forward, clenched his right fist, and punched out with a residual image. Few of the audience could see this punch clearly. The students only saw Wang Zhengtai jump high and kick Su Weifeng. Then Wang Zhengtai screamed and flew back, and the speed was even faster than before. Shen Zhao swallowed his saliva, as if something was stuck in his throat. Although he cheered for Su Weifeng, he didn't expect him to win. Looking at Wang Zhengtai who fell on the ring, holding his legs, and screaming in pain, it felt so unreal. Xia King felt relieved and happy. She was more confident in her martial arts path. She planned to practice martial arts with her grandfather more attentively in the future, hoping to reach the level of a yellow level warrior as soon as possible. Xia Bing also smiled. Su Weifeng won, and at least this hurdle was passed. When he returned, he would quickly let Su Weifeng leave Galan, preferably return to China, so that he could be safe. As for whether the Wang family would vent their anger on his family, he had not considered it yet. Okay, cheers and applause rang out from below. This was the victory of ordinary students. For the first time, they did not have to fear those family members, and for the first time they fought a comeback. Master, how are you? A middle-aged man jumped onto the ring and came to Wang Zhengtai's side. I'm going to kill him. Wang Zhengtai gritted his teeth and said, his heart was full of resentment. His eyes were red and about to bleed. This middle-aged man was Wang Zhengtai's bodyguard and also a master. He knew that Wang Xiao's taekwondo level was very high, and beating ordinary people was no problem at all. He didn't feel anything, even when Su Weifeng defeated Zheng Yang. He was very confident in Wang Xiao, so he didn't stop Wang Zhengtai from going to the ring. Unexpectedly, Wang Xiao's leg was injured with just one move, and he didn't have a chance to stop it at all. He just checked Wang Xiao's injury. According to his experience, it should be a fracture. He couldn't help but sweat on his head. This was his dereliction of duty. He had been in the Wang family for many years, and was deeply trusted by the Wang family. They asked him to protect Wang Xiao. He didn't expect someone to break Wang Xiao's leg in front of him. This time, the Wang family would not let him go. Thinking of this, he looked at Su Weifeng with even more anger. You are so cruel, boy. You are so cruel that you even dared to break young Master Wang's legs. Do you know who he is? He is the young master of the Wang family. Today I will cripple you. The middle-aged man looked at Su Weifeng coldly, his eyes full of murderous intent. Su Weifeng could tell from the murderous intent on his body that this man had really killed someone, but he posed no threat to Su Weifeng at all. Chapter 882, solved with one palm. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he walked towards Su Weifeng. He walked very slowly, but every step was heavy. The students at the scene noticed the middle-aged man who rushed to the stage, and many of them frowned. Who is this uncle? Which department is he from? That's Wang Xiao's bodyguard. I've seen him with Wang Xiao. Ah, bodyguard, so cool. Silly girl, don't be crazy. The bodyguards following these family masters are not good people. This is a bodyguard. That kid is going to be in trouble. Yes, it is said that the worst of these bodyguards are soldiers who have been on the battlefield, and many of them are special forces. These people are not comparable to these taekwondo fighters. These people are there to kill people. Should we call the police? As soon as this bodyguard appeared on the stage, The students exploded, and many people began to mourn for Su Weifeng. These ordinary students just felt proud and defeated the rich second generation, and they were about to be abused in an instant. This is the gap in status. Many students felt sad for the rabbit's death. Su Weifeng, come back soon. Xia Bing shouted anxiously. Su Weifeng turned around and waved his hand at her, indicating that it was okay. Xia Bing was so anxious that she stamped her feet. She had never cared so much about a man before, not even her father cared so much. Xia Bing frowned and thought to herself, Su Weifeng, can you beat this kind of warrior? Professional bodyguards are different from those gangsters. Although he is an external martial artist, he should be a master. I'm really looking forward to it. Shen Zhao also began to get nervous. Although he was very happy to cheer just now, he didn't want to see Su Weifeng win, and he couldn't stand the way he was being noticed by everyone. This time another master appeared, and another thought came to his mind. Beat him down. Beat this kid down. Let him be so proud. The middle-aged man walked towards Su Weifeng step by step. Every time he landed, there would be a muffled sound. At this time, the whole place fell silent. The footsteps were even louder in the students' hearts. The students only felt that their hearts gradually synchronized with the footsteps, beating like drums, and their hearts were lifted. Wang Zhengtai gritted his teeth and didn't scream, but he was smiling cruelly in his heart. Boy, you must die today. You broke my leg. Abayo will never let you go. This is my family's gold medal fighter. He owed my family a favor, so he promised to protect me until I graduated from college. As long as he makes a move, I will either die or be injured. It's a pity that, if I kill you in public today, he will have to hide. Su Weifeng didn't feel anything at first, but when the middle-aged man came over, he felt that every step he took towards him, he became stronger. When he came in front of him, he seemed to have turned into a bloodthirsty beast again. The sense of oppression came over him overwhelmingly, but Su Weifeng just smiled coldly. What a beast, how could it escape the hands of a hunter like him? The middle-aged man moved, stamping his right foot on the ground. The whole ring seemed to tremble. His body suddenly flew up, and his legs spread apart in the air, and swept towards Su Weifeng's head at the same time. With such speed and power, one can imagine that even a watermelon would explode the moment his legs came together. Looking at the kung fu of this middle-aged man, Su Weifeng also had an idea in his mind. This middle-aged man should be practicing Muay Thai. His moves focus on being sinister and simple, and mainly attacking the elbows and knees, which are also the hardest parts of the human body. Many girls in the audience have already screamed, as if they would see Su Weifeng's head bloom in the next second. Su Weifeng smiled slightly. It was easy to deal with this move. As long as he rushed forward, he would avoid the double-footed attack. At the same time, attacking the middle of his legs would kill the middle-aged man in seconds. However, the middle-aged man would be useless in that case. The move was also a bit insidious. Su Weifeng was not interested in it. Moreover, Su Weifeng also wanted to use him to practice the use of true ki in battle. Su Weifeng took a step back and easily dodged the middle-aged man's attack. The middle-aged man sneered in his heart. You have some brains. If you didn't dodge at all, like you did when fighting with Zheng Yang just now. He was confident that this move would kill this kid. As soon as the middle-aged man landed, an elbow strike stabbed at Su Weifeng like a bayonet. Su Weifeng used his true energy in his footsteps, stomped on the ground fiercely, and his body appeared on the side of the middle-aged man with an afterimage. The middle-aged man was shocked. How could this kid's body movement be so strange, like a ghost? Before the middle-aged man could react, Su Weifeng's palm had already stretched out and lightly pressed on the middle-aged man's chest. The middle-aged man was not surprised but happy. He saw that Su Weifeng's palm was soft and had no power. It was just like tickling himself, so there was no need to dodge at all. The middle-aged man bent his forearm parallel to his body, his right arm from top to bottom, his left arm from bottom to top, with a bloodthirsty smile on his face. He wanted to cripple Su Weifeng's arm in one fell swoop. The students' hearts were in their throats. The middle-aged man's moves were too vicious. Seeing that the boy could not escape, some students felt that they were the boy on the stage, and their arms were aching slightly. Xia Bing held Xia King tightly, and her nails pinched into the flesh. Xia King grimaced in pain, but now she had no time to speak, and her attention was all focused on the two people on the field. Su Weifeng's palm seemed light, but it was actually very fast. It pressed on the middle-aged man's chest in an instant. The middle-aged man did not feel any pain, and sneered in his heart. With this strength, killing you is almost the same as killing a chicken. The speed of his hands was even faster, and suddenly the cruel smile on the middle-aged man's face rose. The middle-aged man's chest suddenly caved in, and then a stream of blood spurted out. The whole person flew backwards, leaving a blood mist in the air. After landing, he was motionless, but he coughed up blood from time to time, and the whole person was breathing out more than breathing in. The whole stadium was silent. What happened just now? They saw that Su Weifeng's palm was just lightly pressed on the middle-aged man's chest, and how did he suddenly fly backwards, as if he was pretending? Was this intentional? Was he trying to blackmail him? But the blood really spurted out. The students were all frightened by this sudden change. Is this bodyguard trying to scam people? I can see it clearly. That Su Weifeng's palm doesn't have much strength at all. This scammer is very professional. He even brought ketchup, but the ketchup is diluted enough. A student said disdainfully, feeling that he had seen through the truth. What do you know? That's internal strength. Do you understand how to hit a ball from a distance? It looks like the blow wasn't severe, but the bodyguard's internal organs were actually smashed. A male student wearing glasses said seriously, while holding a fantasy novel. The students around him were stunned. Is this true? The middle-aged man's internal organs were really smashed. It's so scary. A female student next to him was so scared that her voice was trembling. Of course, don't try to fool my eyes. The male student wearing glasses said proudly. Xia Su, don't listen to his nonsense. He can only brag. A classmate next to him said disdainfully. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 883 Hero. This Su Weifeng is so amazing. He can beat a professional bodyguard. What on earth does he do? Someone shouted behind Xia Bing, but Xia Bing didn't have time to deal with them. Anyone who can beat a bodyguard must be someone more powerful than the bodyguard. He can't be a killer. A boy next to him said with wide eyes. This student has a rich imagination. It is very likely that he is a superhero. Superheroes usually hide their identities and live among us ordinary people. A Marvel fan said excitedly, as if he had discovered some secret. Xia Bing's head was full of black lines. Everyone here had richer imaginations than each other, but she was the happiest that Su Weifeng was fine. She rushed to the ring and pulled Su Weifeng to ask about it with concern. Xia King and others also walked onto the ring and surrounded Su Weifeng in the middle. Xia King looked at Su Weifeng meaningfully. She knew that Su Weifeng must have used his internal force just now, otherwise the middle-aged bodyguard would not have been hit by a shell and flew out. She would definitely ask her grandfather about this matter when she returned to see if he could do it. Several bodyguards ran to Wang Zhengtai's side. They were all ordinary bodyguards, and their strength was not outstanding. They could not compare with the Abao just now. Someone went to check Abao's injuries again. How is Abao? Is he dead? Wang Zhengtai said angrily. He hated him so much. Abao seemed to be a hermit. His family had invited him to come and worshipped him as a master. He was said to be very cruel and powerful. This time, not to mention that he could not protect himself. He was beaten to death the first time he attacked. Brother Bao is not dead yet. I have called the emergency number. It would be really bad if it was a little later. A bodyguard said with some fear. He looked at Brother Bao's injuries. His sternum collapsed. This man was really cruel. This was Brother Bao. If it was him, he would have died long ago. Damn it, my Wang family will never stop fighting with you. Wang Zhengtai roared in a low voice. He was in so much pain that he couldn't shout. At this time, many students rushed up. Su Weifeng didn't understand why. These students were not Wang Zhengtai's men. Su Weifeng couldn't help but frowned. He was not afraid, but if he really took action, these ordinary students might not be able to withstand it. If the vulnerable ones died directly, it would be troublesome. However, seeing that these students were excited and obviously had no hostility, Su Weifeng relaxed. These students cheered and ran up, throwing Su Weifeng high up, pushing Xia Bing and the others away. Hero, 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 hero. The students shouted excitedly. Su Weifeng couldn't help but smile bitterly. He didn't expect that he would become a hero after beating 2 people. These students were really interesting. Xia Bing and the others laughed at Su Weifeng, who was thrown high up, and shouted with everyone. Master, are you okay? Do you want it? A bodyguard took out a black pistol from his waist. You have no brains. You opened fire with so many people. Let's not talk about whether you can hit that guy or not. You can't escape the charge of murder. It's impossible for us to silence so many people. Can you kill these hundreds of people to silence them? Wang Zhengtai slapped the bodyguard's head hard. He was so angry. What kind of people are his subordinates? When nothing happens, they are all very powerful. When something happens, they are either weaklings or mentally retarded. He was so angry that his legs started to hurt again. The bodyguard was scolded by the boss and quickly put away his pistol. He thought that he really couldn't use the gun here. Ah, you stepped on my leg. Stay away from me quickly. Suddenly, Wang Zhengtai screamed, and those excited students crowded around him. Someone stepped on his leg, and several bodyguards were scared and dragged Wang Xiao aside. Good boy, you wait for my Wang family's revenge. Wang Xiao roared in his heart, and attributed the kick to Su Weifeng. The excited students made a lot of noise before they dispersed. Several female students flirted with Su Weifeng. Some came up to ask for Su Weifeng's phone number, but when they saw the iceberg beauty next to Su Weifeng and looked at her gloomy face, they left in dismay. These female classmates are really enthusiastic. Su Weifeng sighed. When he was thrown up just now, he felt that someone pinched him from time to time. He saw that they were all female students, and he felt depressed that he was taken advantage of. Is it very enjoyable? Xia Bing said sourly. How could it be? Su Weifeng rolled his eyes. Of course he couldn't say it was okay. Mr. Su, your martial arts are really powerful. Don't forget to treat my grandfather next time. Xia King said. Her face was calm, but she was still very excited, especially Su Weifeng's last punch, which really seemed like a cannon. She couldn't wait to tell her grandfather. Don't worry, you still have to recover for a while after the last treatment before Mr. Han can do the next treatment, otherwise it won't achieve the best effect. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Thank you very much, Mr. Su. Xia King thanked him and left. Don't you run a bar? Are you a doctor? Xia Bing asked in confusion. Of course, being a doctor is also my part-time job. If you are sick, I can help you. Su Weifeng said with a smile. You are sick? Xia Bing scolded with a smile. She smiled more and more when she was with Su Weifeng and no longer had a cold face like before. Thank you today, but you should leave Galan as soon as possible. The sooner the better. The Wang family will not let you go. Xia Bing thought of the big trouble she had caused today and couldn't help but said anxiously. It doesn't matter, I'm not afraid of the Wang family. They can come to retaliate if they want, and I still have a bar. I can't just leave it and run away. Su Weifeng said calmly, not worried at all. Xia Bing saw Su Weifeng's indifferent look and stamped her feet in anger. She was afraid of Su Weifeng like this. I know you must be very powerful in China, but this is not China. This is Galan, and the Wang family is the local snake here. No matter how powerful you are not the opponent of this local snake. The Wang family will definitely take action against you. Xia Bing said anxiously, hoping to convince Su Weifeng. Don't worry, it's fine if the Wang family doesn't come to me, but if they dare to come to me, hum hum hum. Su Weifeng sneered. How could he put the Wang family in his eyes? You, Xia Bing left angrily. She found that she had no way to convince Su Weifeng. This man was too self-righteous. She had to wait until the Wang family really came to her door before she could find a way to help him. Su Weifeng saw that it was still early, so he returned to the hotel. When he entered the door, he didn't see Chu Xiaotu, which was a bit strange. If it was normal, Chu Xiaotu should be at home at this time. Could it be that she went to practice driving? Su Weifeng guessed. Xiaotu. Su Weifeng called while pushing open Chu Xiaotu's door. Chu Xiaotu was lying on the bed weakly, sweating profusely, her face pale, and she couldn't speak. Su Weifeng was anxious when he saw her. What happened? She was fine when he left in the morning. Xiaotu, what's wrong with you? Su Wei asked with concern. Chapter 884 Chu Xiaotu's choice. My stomach hurts. Chu Xiaotu said with difficulty. Come, let me show you. Su Weifeng turned Chu Xiaotu over and lifted up her nightgown to her stomach. At this time, Su Weifeng had no time to pay attention to Xiaotu's cartoon underwear. He put his hand on Chu Xiaotu's stomach and sent her true energy. Chu Xiaotu only felt the heat on her stomach, and it didn't seem to hurt as much as before. Only then did she feel the coolness on her legs, and a touch of redness appeared on her pale face. Although she and Su Weifeng were already boyfriend and girlfriend, they hadn't done anything particularly intimate yet. Looking at Su Weifeng rubbing her stomach, his focused look, her heart was sweet. This is the happiness of love. She didn't know that Su Weifeng was not rubbing her stomach, but using true energy to treat her. Chu Xiaotu felt Su Weifeng's hand moving on her stomach, and her heartbeat began to speed up, as if there was a little deer running around inside. What is he doing? My stomach still hurts now. Doesn't he care about my feelings? Thinking of this, Chu Xiaotu felt a little disappointed. Doesn't he really like me? Finally, Su Weifeng's hand stayed on her lower right abdomen and didn't move. Her abdominal pain was significantly relieved. Is he massaging her? It feels so good. Xiaotu, I checked it. You have appendicitis. There are 2 ways now. You choose one. One is to go to the hospital and have a small operation. You won't feel pain anymore. The other is that I will use Qi to treat you, but it will take several times to completely cure it. However, inflammation may still occur in the future. Su Weifeng told Chu Xiaotu both methods and waited for her to choose. Although Su Weifeng wanted to use Qi to treat it, he still wanted to see Chu Xiaotu's own thoughts. Were you checking me just now? Chu Xiaotu said a little embarrassedly. After getting Su Weifeng's affirmative answer, Chu Xiaotu stuck out her tongue, feeling very embarrassed. She had wrongly blamed Su Weifeng. He was treating her, not without considering her feelings. Thinking of this, she felt warm in her heart. Which one do you want to choose? Su Weifeng smiled gently. I don't want to have surgery. The scars left behind will be so ugly. I choose the second one. I believe my husband can cure me. The massage he gave me just now was so comfortable. It was not the first time that Chu Xiaotu called her husband, but the previous ones were all fake. Now it was real, and it was quite smooth to call him. This is not a massage, it's real Qi. Su Weifeng said with a smile. What is real Qi? Isn't that something in the movies? Chu Xiaotu asked confusedly. I'll tell you later. I'll treat you first. Su Weifeng said. Su Weifeng took out the silver needle he carried with him and was about to prick Chu Xiaotu's lower abdomen, which scared Chu Xiaotu and made her scream. Ah, no, I don't want acupuncture. Chu Xiaotu struggled desperately in fear. Xiaotu, be obedient. It won't hurt after the injection. This silver needle doesn't hurt after Su Weifeng's persuasion. Chu Xiaotu finally agreed to the injection. Chu Xiaotu found a towel and bit it on her mouth, looking at Su Weifeng with tears in her big eyes, like a child who was afraid of injections. Su Weifeng touched her head lovingly, and the silver needle with true energy gently pierced into Chu Xiaotu's lower abdomen. Chu Xiaotu only felt a pain in her lower abdomen, but the pain was very weak and bearable. Then there was a feeling of a warm current flowing into her lower abdomen, which was very comfortable. In this way, Chu Xiaotu was finally not afraid, and her tense muscles also relaxed. After a long time, Su Weifeng pulled out the silver needle. At this time, Su Weifeng's face was full of sweat. Chu Xiaotu knew that this was all for the treatment of her tiredness, and she was very moved. She took the towel she had bitten to wipe the sweat off Su Weifeng's face. Of course, Su Weifeng didn't mind. How do you feel now? Su Weifeng asked with concern. Thank you, husband. I feel much better now. It doesn't hurt at all. Chu Xiaotu kissed Su Weifeng on the face. That's good. Your condition is not serious. Take some anti-inflammatory medicine. I'll treat you a few times and you'll be fine. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Seeing Chuzaro looking at him tenderly, he felt that his tiredness was worth it. What is the true ki you just mentioned? Chuzaro thought of the question about true ki again. In fact, nowadays, martial artists are not only those who practice hard kung fu, such as taekwondo and boxing. There are also martial artists of internal martial arts. These martial artists have cultivated internal force. Su Weifeng said. Is that the kind of Teikai? Chuzaro asked in confusion. This is not absolute. Teikai can be divided into Teikai for physical exercise and Teikai for cultivating internal force. These are different. Many schools can cultivate internal force. This is the same goal. Moreover, internal force is not just a legend, but a real existence. It's just that fewer and fewer people have internal force now. Su Weifeng briefly explained the situation of internal force martial artists to Chuzaro. My husband is so amazing, you must have cultivated inner strength. Chuzaro said excitedly. She was even more excited when she knew that her husband had the legendary inner strength. This is not inner strength. Su Weifeng shook his head and laughed. It's not inner strength. Chuzaro was a little disappointed. This is called true ki, which should be more pure and powerful than inner strength, but now we don't have a good grasp of this true ki, so we have to slowly explore it. Su Weifeng said. I know my husband is the best. True ki, true ki. Chuzaro shouted excitedly. If she hadn't been lying on the bed, she would have jumped up by now. But this is a secret. You can't tell anyone about the true ki. You can only say it to the outside world as inner strength. Su Weifeng said seriously. Well, I know. This is called not showing wealth to others. Chuzaro said with a shrewd look. Seeing Chuzaro's cute appearance, Su Weifeng couldn't help but touch her little head. Chuzaro was even happier after knowing Su Weifeng's secret. This meant that he had no secrets from her at all. This was trust. Thinking of this, she felt very happy and the pain in her stomach was completely gone. Don't go to the bar today. Take a day off. I'll call Mo Feni later and ask for leave for you. Su Weifeng said with a smile. It's okay. I'm fine now and can go to work. Chuzaro jumped to the ground to prove that she was really fine. What a simple girl. I said take a rest and I take a rest. Su Weifeng said forcefully. But if I'm here, there will be one more person to help and we can sell more wine and increase our turnover. Chuzaro said anxiously. She has always been very serious about this job. Even though she is now the boss's girlfriend, she doesn't think she is the boss's wife. I'll ask Mo Feni to recruit a few more people. You have been working too hard recently. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Chapter 885 Billionaire. Wouldn't that increase the cost? Our wages are already very high in the bar street. I'm not short of money. As long as the bar doesn't close, it doesn't matter if I lose money. Su Weifeng said casually. Chuzaro stared at Su Weifeng in amazement. Did she find a rich man or a spendthrift? How much money do you have? You're such a spendthrift. Chuzaro was dissatisfied and thought Su Weifeng was too unmotivated. I haven't calculated this yet. Su Weifeng was stunned by the question. Chuzaro thought that Su Weifeng was keeping it a secret and felt a little unhappy. If you add up all the messy companies, there will be tens of billions. Su Weifeng thought for a while and said. This was still his conservative estimate. His mercenary group still had a lot of assets. Hundreds of billions of RMB. Chuzaro swallowed and said slowly. Chuzaro knew that her boyfriend was rich, but she never thought that he was so rich. He must be on the list of the richest people in China. She never thought that she would find a rich boyfriend, but US dollars. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Chuzaro felt that her head was hit hard and she couldn't speak. Hundreds of billions were already very scary. It was the wealth that she didn't even dare to think about. This was US dollars. She was petrified. Hey, wake up. Su Weifeng looked at Chuzaro and couldn't help laughing. He pushed her. Chuzaro slowly came back to her senses and looked at Su Weifeng in disbelief. Are you kidding me? Chuzaro said in disbelief. Really? Su Weifeng smiled and nodded. Su Weifeng took out his mobile phone and showed the interface of the change to Chuzaro. In Chuzaro surprised eyes, she finally believed it slowly. There were billions of change in the change. It seemed that her boyfriend's words were true. How about it? Do you believe it now? Su Weifeng said with a smile. I suddenly feel that the BMW is cheap. Chu Xiaotu said with a wry smile. Haha, that's okay. Whatever car you like, we can buy it. Su Weifeng said casually. Money is meant to be spent. He doesn't feel bad at all. Oh, I'm kidding. The BMW is already very good, but this time I dare to drive it. No need to worry about the repair fee. Chu Xiaotu said happily. I'll transfer some money to you as pocket money first. Su Weifeng took out his mobile phone and was about to transfer money to Chu Xiaotu, but was immediately stopped by Chu Xiaotu. I don't want your money. Then you will think that I'm with you for money, and I will feel like I'm being kept. I can't accept it. Chu Xiaotu said seriously. Besides, my salary working in the bar is already very high, which is enough for my life. It's useless for me to have more money. I feel comfortable spending the money I earn myself. Chu Xiaotu said proudly. Su Weifeng could see that Chu Xiaotu's words were sincere. It was rare for a girl like this to not be blinded by money and to keep her original heart. He was very pleased. Then tell me, if you need money, I'm your boyfriend, and what's mine is yours. Su Weifeng said seriously. I know. My husband is the best. Chu Xiaotu hugged Su Weifeng and said, her heart was filled with happiness. You should take a nap and rest more. Su Weifeng got up and prepared to call Mo Fei to tell him. I don't want to sleep. We haven't made an appointment yet. Why don't we go to the movies? Chu Xiaotu suddenly jumped up and said. That's fine, but you should sleep for a while. It's still early now. When you wake up, we'll go to dinner and watch a movie. Su Weifeng looked at the time and said. In the evening, Chu Xiaotu drove Su Weifeng to the commercial street in the city center. This is also the place where girls love to go shopping. Chu Xiaotu took Su Weifeng's hand and excitedly walked around the shops one by one. Ordinary girls like Chu Xiaotu like window shopping, just looking but not buying, so they are very happy to go shopping. Su Weifeng gradually saw Chu Xiaotu's shopping style. She would take him into some shops and not into others. It was not a street sweeping way. Su Weifeng was very surprised. Those shops were also very beautiful. There were many clothes in the style of young girls. Why didn't you go into the shop that Xiaotu just visited? The clothes there were also very beautiful. Su Weifeng said to Chu Xiaotu with a smile. That one is too expensive. My friend and I went to take a look. The attitude of the clerk inside was not friendly at all. He was afraid that the clothes would be dirty and would not let us touch them. Chu Xiaotu said depressedly. The salesperson of the high-end fashion brand looked down on ordinary girls like them and was not friendly either. So Chu Xiaotu didn't want to go there again. Su Weifeng frowned when he heard this. Many luxury goods are indeed like this. They don't like to pay attention to customers who can't afford to buy but just look. This is nothing, but now Chu Xiaotu is his girlfriend. He can't let Chu Xiaotu feel inferior when spending money. What he lacks the least is money. Have you forgotten that you still have me? Now you can buy whatever you want and see whatever you want. Su Weifeng said to Chu Xiaotu with a smile. Well, I forgot that my husband is a rich man. Ha ha ha. Chu Xiaotu also became happy, and this time she felt confident, although she didn't want to spend Su Weifeng's money. Chu Xiaotu took Su Weifeng to the luxury store just now. This store mainly sells popular clothes and bags. The workmanship and design are indeed very exquisite. Even Su Weifeng thinks it is really good. Miss, our store is full of expensive goods. You must buy them before you touch them. A waitress in her 30s wearing work clothes came over and said. She was the waitress who received Chu Xiaotu and her friends last time. She obviously recognized Chu Xiaotu and said disdainfully. How do you know I won't buy it? Chu Xiaotu said angrily, and this time she felt confident. Sister Ma, let me do it. This is mine. Another younger girl came over and said. They all took turns to receive customers, so when the waitress saw that it was a girl like Chu Xiaotu who didn't have much money, she secretly said that she was unlucky, so she was unhappy. This young girl was new, and she felt bad when she saw Sister Ma treat customers like this. When Sister Ma saw this newcomer take the initiative to take this customer, she was happy and gave her the seat and went to wait for the next customer, hoping that he was not a poor guy. "Hello, sir and lady, I'm your shopping guide, Li Jing. What style do you want to see? I can introduce it to you." The young girl smiled and said, very enthusiastic, without any impatience. Sister Ma looked at Li Jing with disdain, secretly cursing her fool in her heart. "I don't want to buy anything either, just take a look." Chu Xiaotu directly expressed her thoughts. "Haha, see," she said she didn't want to buy anything, just came to see it. Sister Ma gloated, feeling proud in her heart that her vision was indeed accurate. The waitress named Li Jing didn't care and continued to introduce the products to Chu Xiaotu seriously. Every time Chu Xiaotu noticed a piece of clothing, she would take the initiative to introduce it enthusiastically. Even if Chu Xiaotu didn't buy it, she didn't show any impatience. Chapter 886 Lovers Limited Edition. At this time, two more customers came in. One was a middle-aged man in a high-end suit, with a Mediterranean hairstyle and a bald head. The other was a young girl who was very beautiful. Although she was not a school beauty, she was also a class beauty. The girl wore a silk dress and carried a small luxury bag, which was the brand of this store. "Hello, sir and madam, what can I do for you?" Sister Ma greeted them with a smile on her face. She was most willing to receive middle-aged men with young girls. Most of them were rich bosses with mistresses. These old men were really willing to spend money on girls, otherwise why would so many girls be willing to be mistresses? Moreover, the bag of this girl was of this brand, so the probability of buying this brand again was very high. "Hey, isn't this Chu Xiaotu?" the young girl shouted, while holding the middle-aged man's arm. Chu Xiaotu didn't expect to meet an acquaintance here, but when she turned around, her eyebrows frowned. This girl was from the dormitory next to her, in the same year but different classes. Both of them were beautiful, but Chu Xiaotu was better in both appearance and temperament, which aroused the hostility of this girl. This girl always wore famous brands, and was picked up by a BMW at the school gate. Everyone knew that she had a rich boyfriend outside the school, and was very old, but she didn't care, and enjoyed this kind of life. She often mocked Chu Xiaotu and other girls who were dressed in ordinary clothes. "Ding Lily, you can come, but I can't." Chu Xiaotu snorted coldly. "I'm here to buy things. What are you doing here? Don't bother the waiter selling goods." Ding Lily laughed sarcastically. "It's none of your business whether I buy it or not," Chu Xiaotu said angrily. "Xiaotu, let's continue looking. That bag is nice," Su Weifeng said to Chu Xiaotu with a smile, pointing to a small brown bucket bag. "Let me see, it's really beautiful." Chu Xiaotu didn't want to pay any more attention to Ding Lily and turned to look at the small bag that Su Weifeng mentioned. The design was very novel, the overall roundness was moderate, and it was the style she liked. Chu Xiaotu's eyes lit up immediately. HMPH, what's the use of being beautiful? You can't afford it. Do you want this poor boy to buy it for you? Ha ha ha. Ding Lily laughed loudly. She only then noticed that Chu Xiaotu was with a boy, but this boy was not good looking and dressed very ordinary. The total cost of his clothes was only a few hundred yuan at most. She was immediately very disdainful and didn't even bother to take a second look. "My husband is not a poor boy. He is much richer than your boyfriend," Chu Xiaotu said angrily. She could ignore it if it was her, but not Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng smiled slightly. This little rabbit still had the mentality of a child, but it was rare for her to maintain such an innocent heart and not be tempted by the reality of money. "Ha ha ha, young man, where are you from? You must be rich to come to this store. Your girlfriend must buy it if she likes it." The middle-aged man sneered in his heart when he heard that he was not as rich as the poor boy. He was very disdainful. "I just found out that you have a boyfriend, Chu Xiaotu. The boys who pretended to be innocent in school are not close to you. Oh, I know. You found such a poor boy. You are embarrassed to let others know. Ha ha ha." Ding Lily laughed loudly, laughing so hard that she fell backwards, as if she saw a big joke. "What do they buy? Every time they come, they just look but don't buy. There are too many people like this now. They are not in the same class as powerful people like Miss and Mr. Sister Ma said disdainfully. Qiao was so angry that smoke was coming out of her head, but she really wanted to come and take a look, not to buy. Miss, if you like this bag, you can try it. It is our limited edition for lovers. It just arrived today. There is only this one in the whole gallon. Li Jing introduced it enthusiastically and didn't care about Sister Ma and Ding Lily at all. Xiaoli, what are you introducing? They can't even buy the ordinary ones, so how can they buy the limited edition ones? Sister Ma said disdainfully. Limited edition? They can't even afford the ordinary ones. At most, they can just go out and buy a high-end imitation. Ha ha ha. Ding Lily mocked. Miss, ours is pure handmade and high-grade anti-counterfeiting, and it's buffalo leather, not the ordinary leather. The current technology should not be able to forge an exact replica. You should know that the cost of this buffalo leather alone is very high. Those who sell imitations can't afford this material. The young waiter explained again like reciting a book. Qiao was also scared by this limited edition. How much does it cost? But the young waiter had already taken the bag down for her to try, so she had to try it anyway, and she couldn't lose face in front of Ding Lily. Qiao was already pretty and cute with this bag on her back. With this cute bag, she looked like a little princess. She looked at herself in the mirror, left and right, and then turned around. The middle-aged man didn't pay much attention to Qiao at first, but when he looked at her carefully, his saliva almost flowed out. He stared at Qiao with a lecherous look. This girl was too pretty and cute, much prettier than his mistress, and her temperament was not so vulgar. It seemed that she was Ding Lily's classmate. The middle-aged man's eyes rolled around, and he had a plan in his mind. Honey, I want this bag. Will you buy it for me? Ding Lily fell in love with Qiao when she saw how beautiful she was with this bag on her back. She pulled the middle-aged man and said coquettishly. Qiao and Su Weifeng felt sick. Now this girl is really realistic. She doesn't want anything for money. This limited edition bag is made of bison leather, which is very strong and will not break, even if scratched by a knife. It is also handmade by Master Fiddle. This bag is Master Fiddle's last work. He only made 100 bags, which means that each country can only afford one bag. This is also because Master Fiddle is from Country K, so Country K got a few more bags. The young waitress explained carefully. She memorized the sales pitch of this bag very well. What? Master Fiddle? The middle-aged man exclaimed in surprise. Ding Lily also swallowed her saliva. Obviously, she also knew about this Master Fiddle. Only Su Weifeng and Qiao had puzzled expressions on their faces. They had never heard of him. They didn't pay much attention to this kind of fashion luxury goods. Seeing the expressions of Su Weifeng and Qiao, the young waitress knew that they didn't understand and continued to explain. Master Fiddle is a famous fashion handbag designer in Country K, and he is also a first-line designer in the world. He usually only designs handbags and does not make them himself. This one is made by him, and then he retired to enjoy life, the young waiter said seriously. It turns out that this master is so amazing. Qiao was also stunned. It was no wonder that such a small bag made by a world-class designer was so beautiful. Qiao thought about it and reluctantly took it off. She knew that this bag must be expensive, so she didn't even need to ask the price. Honey, I want it. Ding Lily shook the middle-aged man's arm hard, and the middle-aged man's arm was about to be shaken off. Chapter 887, The Frog's Vision. Every time the middle-aged man heard the female student say this, he was quite excited. But today, he was a little sweaty. He had promised to buy this girl a bag of this brand. According to his plan, it would only cost tens of thousands of RMB. But when he was introduced to the limited edition of the lover, he was a little panicked. This would cost hundreds of thousands of RMB. He was just a small boss. He couldn't afford to buy a mistress at such a high price. What do you think? I said that the poor boy couldn't afford it. Xiaoli, you are just wasting your time. You might as well go drink some water. Sister Ma said sarcastically. The young waitress was obviously dissatisfied with Sister Lee, but she couldn't say anything as a newcomer. She could only sulk by herself. But she really couldn't learn to mock the poor and flatter the rich like Sister Lee. How much is this bag? The middle-aged man was exhausted by Ding Lily and said with a stiff upper lip. This bag is a limited edition for lovers, and it's worth 5.2 million RMB, which means I love you. Sister Ma looked at Chu Xiaotu and Su Weifeng with contempt, and then said loudly, looking at the middle-aged boss expectantly. She liked such a god of wealth, and she envied and hated Ding Lily. She only blamed herself for not being pretty enough, otherwise she would have to find such a rich man. As for other things, it didn't matter. 520,000. The middle-aged man's heart skipped a beat when he heard it, and he almost sat on the ground. He knew that this bag would not be cheap, but he estimated it to be hundreds of thousands, but he didn't expect it to be millions. These 2 bags would cost tens of millions. Ding Lily didn't expect it to be this price. Her throat was dry, and she couldn't speak for a while. She knew what kind of situation the man she was with was. This was completely beyond his ability. He didn't know whether his wealth was worth it. The whole store suddenly became quiet, and the atmosphere became a little weird. Sister Ma also saw that it was probably hopeless, and she was disappointed. She hurriedly wanted to introduce other ordinary bags. After all, this limited edition was not something that everyone could buy. Only those big shots with money and background could afford it. But before she could speak, a man's voice rang out. Although the voice was not loud, it sounded particularly loud in this quiet environment. Xiaotu, do you like this? Su Weifeng said to Chu Xiaotu with a smile. He still saw that Chu Xiaotu liked it. Even he thought that Chu Xiaotu looked really good carrying it. Chu Xiaotu nodded subconsciously and then shook her head. She really liked it, but the price was too high and she couldn't bear to buy it. Boy, pretending requires strength. If you don't have the strength, don't pretend, otherwise it will be embarrassing. The middle-aged man sneered. He couldn't afford it, and he didn't believe that this poor boy could afford it. Did he hear it wrong and heard it as 502? Beauty, help me pack it, we want this one. Su Weifeng said lightly, without blinking. The young waitress didn't expect the 2 young people to buy so easily. She was serving them with the purpose of warm service, and she didn't have any expectations in her heart. She didn't expect that these were not 2 big fish, but big crocodiles. Ding Lily, how is it possible? That's 5.2 million, not 520 yuan. I found a boss who hasn't carried a limited edition bag. He barely bought a regular one. How could this boy have the money to buy such an expensive bag for Chu Xiaotu? This is impossible. The middle-aged boss. Impossible. I must have heard it wrong. Impossible. Sister Ma. Is this true? Those are not 2 losers, but 2 gods of wealth? Impossible. They must be bluffing. Chu Xiaotu knew that Su Weifeng was rich and could afford this bag, but she felt distressed. So much money, that's millions, enough to buy a house, but she was still very happy to see her boyfriend willing to spend money on her. What's important is not the money, but the thought. It must be fake. You are just here to look around. You can't afford it at all. I want to see how you pay. Sister Ma sneered. Yes, Chu Xiaotu has no money, but I look down on you if you pretend to be rich. Let's see what you look like when you can't pay. I have to take a video and post it online. Ha 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 ha. Ding Lily laughed. Now she calmed down and was more convinced that Chu Xiaotu was pretending. Is this right? How could she find a rich man? This is unscientific. We have to believe in science. Don't look at Xiaotu with your frog's eyes. Our world is not what you can imagine. Su Weifeng sneered. Ding Lily and the others were very angry. This meant that they were all frogs, sitting in a well and looking at the sky. Okay, if you can really pay for it, I will admit that I'm a frog. Ding Lily sneered, full of disdain in her heart. Yes, I, a frog, want to see what your sky looks like. The middle-aged man also sneered. It's really shameful. Sister Ma also sneered, and the 3 people seemed to be on the same side. Sir, are you swiping your card or transferring money? The young waiter was still a little confused at this moment, and said subconsciously, feeling that the surrounding environment was a little blurry and unreal. Wait a moment, let's try on the clothes again, and check out together later. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Okay sir, then I'll hold this bag for you first. You guys take your time to look at it. The young waiter said with a smile. Haha, what did I say? You're exposed. You'll run away in a while. Sister Ma laughed loudly, very proud. Little bunny, let's say it again. I haven't recorded it yet. You guys acted too fast. Especially the frog part. It's too classic and creative. Ha 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 ha. Ding Lily laughed so hard that she couldn't breathe. Is this right? This is how it should be. How could Qiao to be better than me? Boy, keep pretending. Don't admit your weakness. Keep going. Let me see what else you want to buy. The middle-aged man sneered. Qiao knew that Su Weifeng was really going to buy her this limited edition lover's bag, so he asked her to look at some clothes. Qiao found a small dress that she had liked before and tried it on. When Qiao came out, Su Weifeng's eyes lit up. She was very fresh, with a feeling of a girl next door, but also very classy, with a low-key luxury style, which matched Qiao's temperament very well. Qiao put on the small bag, which perfectly matched the small dress. Qiao was like a little princess from Cinderella, and her whole aura was different. It's so beautiful, I want this one too. Su Weifeng nodded and said, Sir, this one is 66,000, and it's also our latest model. The young waiter hurriedly introduced. Su Weifeng nodded, not caring about the price. Ding Lily was a little shocked. A small dress cost 66,000. She had never had such expensive clothes before. The middle-aged man began to feel uneasy. Could this guy be the young master of a big family? He came here incognito to pick up girls. How could he not blink when he heard the offer? That was 66,000 yuan. He had never met such a person before. Could he be ready to run away and give up? Sister Ma still had a sneer on her face. She didn't believe it at all and just waited to see the show. Chapter 888, Meeting Master Bao again. Okay, that's enough. Qiao said to Su Weifeng nervously. If Ding Lily hadn't brought her here, she wouldn't have bought it. Finally, under the strong suggestion of Su Weifeng and the young waiter, Qiao chose another small windbreaker worth 120,000 yuan. So Su Weifeng went to the cashier to pay with satisfaction. 5,200,000 plus 66,000 plus 120,000, a total of 5,980,000. The young waiter tried to keep his tone steady. Ding Lily and others looked at Su Weifeng and Qiao anxiously. Why didn't they run away? They were peeing, and they were on the phone. Why didn't they come out? They didn't really pay, right? They suddenly became nervous and had a bad feeling. When Su Weifeng was about to pay, an old man came in at the door. He looked very wealthy, with a rosy face. He was wearing a suit, but it looked a bit out of place. The buttons of the suit were impossible to button. Behind the old man were two men in black, who looked like bodyguards. Sister Ma saw the newcomer and immediately went to meet him. She greeted him and followed him respectfully. Are there a lot of customers today? The fat old man said with a smile. HMPH, what kind of customers are they? They can't afford to buy and look at limited edition bags worth millions. I won't let them look. They can't afford to buy them, even if they get them dirty. Xiaoli is stupid. He had to introduce them to them. Now he can't get off the stage. He pretended to pay. He will definitely run away soon. Sister Ma complained, and didn't forget to tell Xiaoli about it. The fat old man came in quickly. When he saw Su Weifeng and others, his face changed immediately. Mr. Su, why are you here? The old man smiled and shook hands with Su Weifeng. Boss, do you know them? The young waiter said in surprise. The boss is a big shot. It turned out that they were the boss's friends. No wonder they could afford such expensive bags. But they are too young. Maybe the boss is an elder who knows them, the young waiter thought. Boss, Sister Ma thought to herself, I'm not good. I was just saying bad things about them. The boss won't be angry, right? Su Weifeng and Qiao were stunned when they saw the boss. They knew this fat old man. Isn't this Bao Yi from the Blue Mountain Garden Treasure Pavilion? They didn't expect that he was the boss here. What a coincidence. Bao Yi, why did you open a clothing store? Su Weifeng asked curiously. My friend opened it. I bought some shares as an investment. Bao Yi said casually. It was true. Bao Yi's treasure pavilion was very powerful. He dared to offer hundreds of millions to buy the purple jade cut by Su Weifeng. Opening a small clothing store was like playing. What about a luxury store? There are also antiques. Is gambling on stones valuable? Baoyi, do we have to give a discount when we buy a bag from you? Qiao pointed at the bag and said to Baoyi with a smile. She and Baoyi were also familiar with each other. Her bracelet was also processed by the treasure pavilion. Baoyi saw at a glance that the bracelet on Qiao's wrist was made of the purple jade worth hundreds of millions. He still underestimated the price of the purple jade. After processing, he almost sold the leftovers that Su Weifeng gave him for a sky-high price. He looked at Qiao and laughed. It turned out that it was given to this girl. Seeing that Qiao and Su Weifeng were very familiar with the boss, Sister Ma's heart couldn't help but beat wildly. She was very regretful. This was an opportunity to perform well in front of the boss, but how did she mess it up? She secretly hated that Xiaoli had stolen her customers, and the commission was very considerable. Thinking of this, she became more anxious. Boss, this customer was originally mine. Sister Ma hurriedly shouted, but she was interrupted by Baoyi before she finished speaking. Baoyi glared at her fiercely. The young waiter was also very angry. Just now you despised the other person for having no money and were unwilling to serve him. Now that you see that the other person has money, you say that the customer is yours. How can you be so shameless? Baoyi ignored Sister Ma and continued. If Mr. Su wants to buy it, why charge money? Just take it away. I made a lot of money from the purple jade material you sold me last time. It seems that the price I quoted to Mr. Su was too low. This is my mistake. This bag and clothes are compensation for Mr. Su. Next time Su Weifeng has something good, he must think of me. Baoyi said with a smile. He was not so generous. Businessmen put their interests first, but he knew that Su Weifeng was not an ordinary person. Not only could he cut out purple jade, but his identity and background must be very extraordinary. Otherwise, how could he not care about hundreds of millions of things and give them directly to this little girl? Baoyi himself has many young girlfriends, but he would not be willing to give them hundreds of millions of things. This also means that Mr. Su really doesn't care about the money. He hopes to win over more people with money and background. It is still worth investing this little money. But obviously Su Weifeng didn't mean to take these things for nothing. He declined Baoyi's kindness on the grounds that he would appear sincere if he bought them for his girlfriend with his own money and transferred the money directly. The middle-aged man. I can't afford to offend the owner of this kind of store. My net worth is not enough to fill his teeth, and this boss took the initiative to give them things worth more than 5 million for free. What kind of status do they have? The middle-aged man was a little terrified when he thought of this. Ding Lily. How could this be? Qiao's boyfriend is so rich and must have a deep background. How is she better than me? She can carry such a good bag and her boyfriend is so young. Thinking of this, she looked at the bald uncle next to her and felt more and more wronged. She paid so much and got nothing. It's so unfair. Sister Ma was also stunned. She felt that she was finished. The boss could give this limited edition bag as a gift. What kind of relationship is that? And the man didn't even want it as a gift, but insisted on buying it himself. He was really rich and didn't care about these millions. Just now, I even laughed at them for not being able to buy it. My eyes were really blind. Baoyi sent Qiao and Su Weifeng to the door. Sister Ma and others also followed subconsciously, as if this was a very important person and they dared not send him off. You frogs, do you know what the sky looks like? Su Weifeng laughed and walked out holding Qiao's hand. The middle-aged man and Ding Lily wished they could find a crack in the ground to crawl into, not daring to make a sound. Sister Ma looked at Su Weifeng with even more fear. She knew that she had gotten into trouble today, a big trouble. After sending Qiao and Su Weifeng away, Baoyi, who had been smiling like Maitreya Buddha, turned cold and stared at Sister Ma coldly. Although Baoyi didn't ask Su Weifeng, he guessed something from what Su Weifeng had just said, and Sister Ma was complaining to him as soon as she came in. It was obvious that she had offended the great god. According to Sister Ma's usual character, he could already figure out the whole story. Xiao, you are fired. Xiaoli, from now on, you are the store manager. I will arrange someone to help you tomorrow. Baoyi said to Sister Ma coldly. The young waitress was stunned. She had just been here for a month, and she was going to be the store manager. This happiness came too suddenly. The salary of such luxury stores is high, but the requirements are also high. Which store manager here has not worked as a waiter for more than 5 years? I just came here. It's like a dream. She knew that it must be because of the young couple just now. They were satisfied with her, so the boss made an exception and promoted her. I must remember the appearance of these two young people and be more enthusiastic next time. I don't know who they are. Ah, boss, I was wrong. How do I know they can afford it? They are dressed so ordinary. I'm afraid that they will touch and rub the things in our store. Sister Ma explained anxiously. Dressed ordinary? Humph, you are really blind. Do you know how much the bracelet that girl is wearing is worth? Baoyi said angrily. How much? Sister Ma answered subconsciously. 500 million. This is still a conservative estimate. The actual price should be higher than this. It is processed by our treasure pavilion personally. Baoyi sneered and said loudly. Chapter 889 Parking Lot Incident. Everyone was petrified on the spot. What does 500 million mean? If the first prize of the lottery is 5 million, then you have to win the first prize 100 times. With this money, you can buy a bracelet for a girl as an ornament. Is this crazy? Ding Lily was terrified. She dared not offend Qiao Yushan again. She made up her mind to stay away from her and let her not think of herself. If such a rich person even has a thought about her, she would forget it in this life. Sister Ma's mind was blank. This is the girl she looked down on. Can't she afford the clothes that cost tens of thousands of yuan? The jade bracelets she wears are worth hundreds of millions. At this time, she no longer has any hope for her fate. After offending such a super guest, being fired is already a good result. Qiao Yushan wore a newly bought dress and carried a limited edition small leather bag. The smile on her face couldn't be put back. It felt like a dream. She held Su Weifeng's hand and chatted non-stop. The two played for a long time and had a candlelight dinner. Steak, snails and other things were indispensable. They drank red wine leisurely with the accompaniment of violin. After watching the midnight movie, they were ready to go home. Qiao Yushan was still reluctant to leave. It was her first time to date a boy. This feeling was so good. Of course, her date was not an ordinary boy. Hubby, thank you. I'm so happy today. Qiao Yushan hugged Su Weifeng and said. Haha, as long as Yushan is happy, we can come again, when we think of it. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Qiao Yushan nodded happily and walked towards the underground parking lot with Su Weifeng, talking and laughing. It was already midnight, and there was basically no one in the underground parking lot. Qiao Yushan parked the car at the bottom floor again. When the two came to the parking space, there were no vehicles around. There was only a BMW X7 parked there alone. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the lights on Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan went out. They could only vaguely see the environment with the dim lights in the distance. What's going on? The light is broken. It's not so unlucky. Qiao Yushan said a little depressed. Her driving skills were not very good to begin with. Wouldn't this make it more difficult for her? You are unlucky, but we are so lucky today. Two men with shaved hair came out from behind the pillars behind the shadows. One of them with a scorpion tattooed on his neck said with a smirk. Who are you? What do you want to do? Su Weifeng said calmly. It doesn't matter who we are, and you don't need to know. Another man with a scar on his face said fiercely. Are you robbing? Qiao Yushan had already taken out her electric baton and said coldly. Haha, the little girl is very smart. Why don't you hand over the jade bracelet obediently? Are you waiting for us to do it? Said the scarred man. Brother, this little beauty is the best. Let's have sex in the car later. It's worth it to sleep with her and live a few years less. The man with the scorpion tattoo looked at Qiao Yushan with lustful eyes. His eyes swept across her chest and exposed arms and legs from time to time, looking like a hungry wolf. Are you horny? Women are more important than life. We have to leave as soon as we get the things. Otherwise, it will be more dangerous if we wait for one more minute. The scarred man scolded coldly. Brother, we have to kill these two anyway. It won't take a while. The man with scorpion tattoo continued to persuade. The two were hooligans from the neighborhood. They came to the mall to buy things. When they passed by the store, they happened to hear Baoyi scolding Margie. At the same time, they also heard that the bracelet on the girl's hand was worth 500 million. They were also frightened, but in front of the huge wealth, they quickly reached an agreement to rob and kill, and then run away from Galan. With hundreds of millions, they can live happily anywhere. This is because they are afraid of the identities of these two people. People who can have so much money must have an extraordinary identity. If they rob such people, how can their fate be good? So it is better to kill them directly, which greatly reduces the risk of being caught. The two followed Qiao and Su Weifeng from a distance. While they were having a candlelight dinner in a western restaurant, he was eating hamburgers outside. While they were watching a movie, the two of them were staring anxiously outside the cinema, paying attention to everyone coming out so as not to miss them. Through the conversation between the two, Su Weifeng also knew the general situation. At first, he suspected that the two were sent by Baoyi to rob the thieves, but now he knew that the two of them accidentally heard that Qiao's bracelet was valuable, and they had a sudden impulse. Su Weifeng was very disdainful, but they wanted to sleep with Qiao blatantly, which he could not tolerate. This was his girlfriend, and he had murderous intentions in his heart. Boy, kneel down now. If you know what's good for you, we can give you a quick death. As for your girlfriend, I will take care of her for you first, and I will send her down to accompany you in a while. The man who smelled the scorpion said with a smirk. It's too late for you to kowtow to me now. You will all die. Su Weifeng's voice turned into ice, and his face was full of murderous intent. It was the first time that Qiao saw Su Weifeng like this, and she was a little scared, but then she thought that it must be because of her husband that she was angry, and she was no longer afraid. Haha, kid, you want to kill us? Do you have a gun? The scarred man sneered. Do I need a gun to kill you? Su Weifeng said in a cold voice. The scarred man laughed. He was just testing. If this kid really had a gun, the two of them would have to retreat today. This was something they had not expected. But judging from his words, he didn't have a gun at all, so there was nothing to worry about. Boss, you go kill this kid, and I'll catch this woman. The man with the scorpion tattoo said with a smile, obviously unable to wait. The scarred man slapped him hard on the head and said angrily, it's time now. Don't you have a brain? Let's kill this kid together first, and then talk. The man with the scorpion tattoo was obviously afraid of the scarred man. Seeing that he was really angry, he didn't dare to say anything. Both men took out their daggers and rushed towards Su Weifeng. Qiao was eager to try with the electric baton in her hand. She was also angry. The man was still planning to attack her. She really wanted to electrocute him to death with a stick. However, how could Su Weifeng let Qiao go forward? What should he do if he was injured? He quickly pulled her behind him and rushed forward at the same time. How could the two gangsters be Su Weifeng's opponents? Even with a knife, they were like children. Su Weifeng broke their wrists directly and kicked them out one by one. After all, the two gangsters were playing together. They had a tacit understanding and flew out in exactly the same posture. The two men lay on the ground next to each other, barely supporting their bodies with one arm, and spit out blood at the same time. The two men no longer had the ferocity just now. They wailed weakly and looked at Su Weifeng as if they had seen a ghost. The two men were terrified. Is this still a human being? They usually have hundreds of fights, big and small, but they have never met such a person. Let alone the two of them. Even if there are a few more, they are just serving food. It's just like shooting a movie. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 890, Mr. Xiang's Attitude. You're done, kid. Do you know who we are? The scarred man said viciously. Who you are has nothing to do with me. I only know that you're going to die soon. Su Weifeng said coldly, with no emotion in his eyes, as if killing them was no different from stepping on an ant. The two men looked at Su Weifeng with a look that made them feel cold. Who on earth is this man? His eyes were full of indifference to life. He really didn't take human life seriously. They knew that this man was not bluffing, but really wanted their lives. They couldn't help but tremble a little, and the scarred man just now lost his original calmness. You can't kill us. We are from the Beast Gang. Today we admit defeat. You can leave. We don't interfere with each other. We'll just pretend that nothing happened. We'll stay away from you in the future. What do you think? The scarred man said with gritted teeth. The scarred man is also a small leader, and he has 2 brothers under him, but today he has given up. In the underworld, face is more important than life. It is not shameful for someone to be chopped or chased for several blocks. It is a record to be chopped when you are in the underworld. But giving up is a taboo. As long as you bow your head once, your reputation will be ruined, and you will never be able to get ahead in the future. But at this moment, if the scarred man doesn't give up, he will die. Compared with death, everything is a trivial matter. The man with the scorpion tattoo was so scared that he dared not speak. He just wanted this devil to leave quickly. Now he dared not look at Qiao too. He believed that, if he looked at his woman again, he would dig out his eyes. Based on the devil's indifferent eyes, he had no doubt about it. Haha, Beast Gang, I'm so scared. Su Weifeng said with a sneer, but there was no fear in his tone. The scarred man's heart suddenly became tense. Could it be that he was not even afraid of the Beast Gang? Even if he had a strong background, he would not be willing to offend the local tyrants in Chinatown. Even if he was not afraid, he would not like to cause more trouble. Su Weifeng picked up the phone and directly dialed Zhang Yi's number, turning on the speakerphone at the same time. Mr. Su, what's the matter, so late at night? Zhang Yi was lying on the soft big bed, holding a young and beautiful girl in his arms. He was sleeping soundly, but was suddenly woken up by the computer. He was so angry that he wanted to curse, but when he saw the caller ID, the anger on his face disappeared, and he said politely that he still wanted to have a good relationship with Su Weifeng. The scarred man's face turned pale. How could he not know this voice? Isn't this the voice of his Beast Gang boss, Beast King Xiang? This is the boss of his boss's boss's boss. He was fortunate to attend the annual meeting with his boss, met Zhang Yi once, and listened to Zhang Yi's speech. Zhang Yi is his idol and lifelong goal. He is particularly impressed by his voice. How could this man have Zhang Yi's phone number? And Zhang Yi seemed very polite. Suddenly, he felt that things were going to get bad. If this guy knew Zhang Yi, I'm afraid his boss couldn't protect him. His boss didn't even have a chance to see Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, my girlfriend and I were robbed in the underground parking lot of the Broadway cinema on the pedestrian street. They said they wanted to kill me and sleep with my girlfriend. It seems that they are from the Beast Gang. Su Weifeng said in a somewhat cold voice, and the murderous intent in his heart was still there. Ah. Mr. Su, are you okay? I'll go over right away. Zhang Yi was shocked. How could the person he was trying so hard to please be robbed by his own men and wanted to kill Mr. Su? He also heard the murderous intent in Su Weifeng's tone. He hated it so much. I don't know which loser it was. I must kill him. The scarred man and the man with the scorpion tattoo felt their hearts sink to the bottom of ice when they heard this. Master Xiang wanted to come in person in the middle of the night, which meant that Master Xiang and this kid definitely had a special relationship. Moreover, Master Xiang's words were obviously very respectful. Who was this kid? Was he looking for trouble with the god of death? Master Xiang doesn't need to come in person. I have already knocked them down. For Master Xiang's sake, just leave it to Master Xiang to deal with. I'll leave first. Su Weifeng said coldly. Mr. Su, don't worry. I will definitely handle this matter. Mr. Su will never see them again. Master Xiang understood what Su Weifeng meant when he heard this. He said he was giving him face, but in fact, he wanted him to give an explanation. If it was someone else, Master Xiang would definitely be disdainful. What if his men provoke you? Do you dare to go to the Beast Gang to ask for an explanation? But this is not someone else. This is Mr. Su, Master Ajax's friend. This power is too great. Su Weifeng and Chu Xiao watched the car steadily leave the parking lot and drive to the hotel. The scarred man and the man with the scorpion tattoo were as disheartened as death. They did not relax at all because of the devil's departure. They knew what Zhang Yi meant just now. It was not as simple as driving them out of Galan. They could not even stand up now, let alone run. Even if they could run, they might have been caught before they left Galan. Until Zhang Yi's men arrived and took them away, they were still in a daze, with only one thought in their minds. It is self-inflicted. Husband, you were so scary just now, as if you were going to kill someone. Qiao said while driving. If they want to touch my little rabbit, of course I will kill them. No one can bully my little rabbit while I'm here. Su Weifeng said seriously. Well, husband is so nice. Qiao did not doubt what Su Weifeng said at all, and was moved. Next time, you really have to be more careful. Don't let others know the value of your jade bracelet. People die for money and birds die for food. It is easy to be targeted by others, Su Weifeng warned. I know. Next time someone asks me, I will say that this jade bracelet is fake. Qiao said proudly. After returning to the hotel, Su Weifeng took a shower and went back to his room. He lay on the bed thinking about things. Today is a day he agreed with Zhang Yi. Then he will see how powerful those masters are. He is now eager to figure out his true key. He feels that his true key is far from as strong as Han Leo and others said. The heaven level that Han Leo said is innate. In essence, it is not human. It is a transcendence in the level of life. Su Weifeng knows clearly that, even if his combat power is very strong now, it is limited to ordinary people. After a while, Qiao, who had just finished taking a shower, came over in a nightgown holding a pillow, looking at Su Weifeng a little embarrassed. Su Weifeng was stunned, and suddenly thought that Qiao was his girlfriend now, and it was normal for her to sleep with him. Qiao was in a particularly good mood today, and even forgot about the encounter with the two gangsters. For the first time, she felt that having a boyfriend was such a blessing. She hugged Su Weifeng and chatted non-stop. Under Su Weifeng's strong command, she slowly calmed down and fell asleep. Su Weifeng looked at the cute girl sleeping in his arms, and a smile appeared on his face. He gently kissed her forehead and slowly fell asleep. Chapter 891 Goodbye Wang Zhengtai. At 11 o'clock the next night, Su Weifeng came to the riverside in the suburbs, which was the place he had agreed with Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi and his enemy had agreed to meet at 12 o'clock, but they all gathered at 11 o'clock. When Su Weifeng arrived, there were already 7 or 8 cars parked, all off-road vehicles. A large park was built by the river, and the place where Su Weifeng and his friends were now was a large viewing platform, all made of marble, with an area of 200 to 300 square meters. There were many stone tables and stone benches inlaid around the viewing platform. There were already 3 or 4 tables with people sitting, and some people were standing behind, who were bodyguards and the like. Mr. Su, you are here, come and sit down. When he saw Su Weifeng coming, Zhang Yi enthusiastically let Su Weifeng come over. Su Weifeng looked at the people at these tables. The first table was occupied by Zhang Yi and Master Huo, whom he knew, and he didn't know the rest of the tables, but the people sitting at each table were dignified and majestic. Needless to say, they were not simple figures, and there were many bodyguards standing behind them. Suddenly, Su Weifeng saw a familiar figure at the last table. It was Wang Zhengtai, whose leg he had just broken yesterday. At this time, his leg was still wrapped in thick bandages. He was sitting with a middle-aged man. Obviously, Wang Zhengtai also saw Su Weifeng, and whispered something to the middle-aged man. Su Weifeng squinted his eyes, and glanced at Wang Zhengtai. He thought that it was really a narrow road for enemies. If he dared to cause trouble for him, he would not mind breaking his other leg as well. Who is this kid Zhang Yi? The middle-aged man sitting with Wang Zhengtai spoke, his eyes full of hatred. He was the current head of the Wang family, Wang Zhengtai's father, Wang Wei. He knew that his son had an accident at school, and that Abayo was disabled, with many bones broken, and internal organs damaged. Although his life was saved, he might never be able to practice martial arts again, and could only be an ordinary person. After Wang Wei learned the news, he wanted to tear the boy to pieces, but the matter of Master Xiang was right in front of him, so he had to suppress his anger first, and prepare to avenge his son after tonight's matter was over. Unexpectedly, among the people who came tonight, there was this boy. He couldn't suppress his anger anymore, and was about to lose his temper. This is Mr. Su, who I invited to help. Master Wei knows Mr. Su. Master Xiang also felt that something seemed wrong. Didn't you just ask what happened to my son's leg? It was broken by this boy. Master Ziyang, what do you think we should do? Wang Wei said coldly. Master Ziyang was also in trouble. Mr. Su was a friend of Master Ajax, so he naturally didn't dare to offend him. The Wang family was also a big family in Galan. Not only did they have power in Chinatown, but they also had some power in the central region. He was also on good terms with the Wang family and didn't want to offend them. This matter was a bit difficult to handle. Master Wei, Mr. Su is also my friend. Let's put this matter aside. After we solve the enemy, we will see how to deal with this matter later. What do you think? Master Ziyang said. Compared with his own affairs, these are all trivial matters. His own affairs are a matter of life and death. The head of the Wang family snorted coldly, which was regarded as tacit agreement. He was also here to help. As a major force in Chinatown, when there is a foreign enemy visiting, several forces with good relations will share the same hatred. As for this enemy of Master Ziyang, he didn't know what purpose this man came with. If he just wanted to kill people for revenge, he would not care. If he wanted to take the opportunity to get a share of the pie in Chinatown, he would definitely not allow it. Su Weifeng snorted coldly and found an empty stone table nearby and sat down. On the table, there were tea, fruits, etc. prepared by Master Ziyang's men in advance. Su Weifeng picked up an apple and ate it by himself. He was already a little dissatisfied with Master Ziyang in his heart. Master Ziyang obviously didn't want to offend anyone, but Su Weifeng was not afraid. He wanted to see how it would end. Ziyang Yi was also annoyed. Both parties were obviously dissatisfied with him, but he had no choice. He could not care so much for now. He had to solve his own problems first. Su Weifeng looked around coldly. In addition to Master Huo, there were two other people who were obviously martial artists. They were sitting at a table next to Ziyang Yi. They were two men, one old and one young. The old man was nearly 60 years old, with a long goatee, wearing a black tank suit, waving a folding fan painted with ink and color, with an attitude that everything was under control. The young man was also in his 20s, wearing a black training suit, and his body was very sturdy, as if he had no neck. But it was not that he had no neck, but that his neck was too thick. The young man was also looking at Su Weifeng with a look of disdain. Su Weifeng knew that these should be the masters that Ziyang Yi had asked for help, but since Ziyang Yi did not introduce them, there was no need to ask, and these people would not have any intersection in the future. Su Weifeng looked at the bodyguards behind Ziyang Yi again. Many of them had bulges on their waists. It was obvious that they were all carrying guns. However, guns were indeed very lethal and deterrent to ordinary warriors, but for real masters, unless there was a high lethal automatic rifle, this single shot pistol could easily be avoided. It seems that Feng Lang chose this place because he was afraid that Ziyang Yi would find someone to besiege him, and he was ready to escape at any time. Master Huo said with a smile. Feng Lang was the name of Ziyang Yi's enemy, and Su Weifeng had just heard of it. Haha, it's not that easy to run away. With Master Huo and Old Man Wu here today, he can't fly away, even if he has wings. Ziyang Yi laughed loudly. Old Man Wu was the old man in the black tank suit. He practiced Bajiquan. After his branch's improvement, he practiced Wu's 8th-level boxing. He was the current master, named Wudi, and the young man with him was his grandson, named Wu Hao, who was also invited by Ziyang Yi at a high price this time. Yes, Mr. Su is here. We are all heroes gathered here. I will serve tea instead of wine to everyone. Mr. Ziyang suddenly remembered that there was also Su Weifeng, who was also asked by him to help. He seemed to have forgotten to mention it just now, but he did not look embarrassed at all, and hurriedly raised his glass and said, "Where did this young man come from, and dare to compare with us?" Mr. Wu snorted coldly, but did not raise his glass. He also knew that this boy was also invited by Mr. Ziyang, and he was immediately unhappy. You are right. Everyone wants to compare with me, and they don't weigh their own strength. Master Huo also snorted coldly, but his words were not just about Su Weifeng. He also looked down on Mr. Wu. He thought that it was enough for Mr. Ziyang to find him, and he also found so many messed up people. How could they be qualified to compare with him? He was a real Huang level Dachshund, and he was only one step away from the peak. Old man, who are you talking about? Wu Hao stood up and shouted angrily. The people behind Master Huo were all his apprentices. When they saw this guy being disrespectful to his master, 3 or 4 of them came out at once. Master Xiang hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. They were all people he had invited, and he couldn't neglect any of them. He was so angry in his heart. What kind of people did he find? He had to fight before Feng Lang even arrived. Chapter 892 Enemy appears. Old Master Wu still looked like a hermit and ignored Master Huo's provocation. There is no first in literature and no second in martial arts. Martial artists are very confident in themselves and think they must be stronger than others. In fact, who is stronger and who is weaker can only be known after a real fight. At this time, Wang Zhengtai kept staring at Su Weifeng. If eyes could kill, then Su Weifeng would have died 1,000 times. Now he only had Su Weifeng in his eyes, and his eyes were about to spit fire when he looked at him. With his father by his side, he was confident and not afraid of Su Weifeng at all. Moreover, this time the head of the family came out with the family's top force. He had already thought about it. As long as he solved the enemies of Mr. Xiang, he would immediately have someone deal with that kid, break all his limbs, and throw him directly into the river next to him. Xiaobing is mine, and anyone who dares to snatch it from me must die. For Mr. Xiang's sake, the conflict on the field was temporarily eased, and no one was arguing. There are still 30 minutes until the agreed time. Feng Lang may show up at any time. Everyone, be careful. Xiang Yi looked at his watch and said seriously, feeling more and more uneasy. The bodyguards behind Xiang Yi were all as if they were facing a great enemy. Many of them had their hands on their waists and looked around vigilantly, especially the 2 paths leading here. They were vaguely visible under the illumination of the square street lights, but the end was shrouded in darkness, as if someone might rush out at any time. Xiang Yi's people knew more about the enemy's strength than anyone else present. Aheo, the top thug, was defeated in one move. He was not an ordinary master. As for Aheo not showing up here today, Su Weifeng was also surprised. Isn't he Xiang Yi's personal bodyguard and the strongest fighter? But Su Weifeng didn't know that Xiang Yi had made 2 preparations. If he failed, Aheo would leave with his family and leave Galan to avoid being killed by his enemies. In this tense atmosphere, time passed very slowly. Only Su Weifeng could make the sound of eating from time to time, which seemed out of tune with the others. Master Huo and Old Master Wu both looked at him with contempt, and were very disdainful of this young man who didn't know much. Finally, at the end of the path, there were crackling sounds of fighting and a few gunshots. A minute later, the sounds of fighting and gunshots disappeared at the same time, and everyone's heart was lifted, especially Xiang Yi. Those were the gunmen he had arranged on both sides of the path in advance. If he could solve the opponent by surprise, it would be the most perfect solution, but now he didn't know whether he had succeeded. Su Weifeng finally put down the cake in his hand and stared at that direction. He could tell from the sound that Xiang Yi's men had failed, because the sound of fighting came first, and then the gunshots, which meant that the initiative was in the hands of Feng Lang, not ambushed. A master could easily solve a few gunmen, if he was prepared. He's coming, Xiang Yi said in a hoarse voice. He only felt that his throat was a little dry. He picked up the teacup to moisten his throat, but his hand shook unconsciously, and the tea spilled out. A figure slowly walked out of the dark path. His steps were so steady that every step made everyone nervous. As the man approached, his appearance became clearer. He was a middle-aged man wearing a black training suit and a pair of hiking shoes. He looked a bit out of place. There was a scar running from the top of his head to the corner of his mouth, like a centipede lying on his face, very ferocious. When Wang Zhengtai saw this man, his face tightened, and he almost peed in fear. He had never seen such a scary person. The man walked over and sat down next to Xiang Yi's stone table under the gaze of everyone. Xiang Yi's heart was beating wildly, but he couldn't lose face and forced himself to remain calm. Xiang, no, it seems that your men now call you Xiang Yi, ha 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 ha. The scarred man said with a mocking look on his face. Feng Lang, I didn't expect you to dare to come back. Xiang Yi said coldly with a gloomy expression on his face. Of course I have to come back. I have been practicing hard with my master for these years. I have lived in the glacier for many years. It is difficult to eat a hot meal, but I gritted my teeth and persevered. I will remember you every day. This scar of mine is given by you. Every time I think of you, even if my body is tired and painful, I'm full of strength. Today I have finally succeeded in my practice, and it is time for us to settle accounts. The scarred man said with hatred. He has spent every day in hatred for these years, and hatred has become the motivation for his practice. Feng Lang, we are both so old. Instead of hurting each other, why not sit down and have a good talk? I will give you some compensation. Now we are both people with status and position. Isn't it good to enjoy life well? Why fight to the death? Xiang Yi tried to say that, if he could talk it out, it might be the best outcome for him. If he was young, Xiang Yi would not have any idea of negotiation. He would not care about life and death, and would just fight, if he did not accept it. But now it is different. He is a big boss. His life is precious. He has endless money waiting for him to enjoy, and countless beauties waiting for him to enjoy. How can he bear to risk his life? The most important point is that he has no confidence that he can definitely deal with Feng language. What compensation are you going to give me? Do I need your money now? Don't think you have a fortune. I'm not worse than you. Unless I cut you with a knife, if you can survive, we can have a chance to sit down. Feng Lang said disdainfully. Feng Lang, if you don't want the chance I give you, don't blame me. Don't think you are invincible, just because you have practiced internal force. Xiang Yi said coldly. Oh, you also know internal force. I underestimated you. It seems that you have also hired someone to deal with me. Come out and show yourself quickly. Feng Lang glanced around and sneered. He found that there were indeed a few warriors on the field, but he had absolute confidence in himself, and these people were not taken seriously by him at all. HMPH, don't think that you are the only one who has cultivated internal strength. Master HUO, please help. Xiang Yi snorted coldly. Now he was ready to go. It had come to this point. He had restored the domineering attitude that a local leader should have. Before Master HUO stood up, Wu Heo, who was from the 8th level, had already stood up and looked at the scarred man with disdain in his eyes. I didn't expect him to be a master, but he looks like a robber. Master Xiang, I will kill him for you. Wu Heo looked at Feng Lang with disdain, walked to the open space in front, and waved to Feng Lang casually. Xiang Yi frowned. He didn't think that a grandson of Master Wu could deal with his enemy. However, Wu Heo had already come out, and Master Wu didn't stop him. He couldn't say anything more. He could only wait and see. Chapter 893 Feng Lang vs Wudi. Master Xiang, are you going to let this kid come out and die? Feng Lang said disdainfully. As for the arrogant words just now, he simply ignored them. A warrior who could practice to his level must have a firm mind. If he was affected by a few words, he would not have to seek revenge. Come out if you have the guts. Don't be so annoying. Wu Heo said impatiently. Su Weifeng shook his head. He was very pessimistic about Wu Heo. He looked no different from those young masters of the family. He must have been smooth sailing since childhood, so he was self-righteous. This Feng Lang was indeed a master. It could be seen from his walking and sitting posture. He just sat there, seemingly casually, but in fact, his butt was not sitting firmly. Su Weifeng could see it clearly from his position. This is to be ready for battle at any time. As long as there is a little disturbance, he can react immediately. Such people are either timid and cautious, or they have actually been on the battlefield and developed an instinctive reaction in the situation, where they may die at any time. But this man is obviously not a timid person. How can such a person be dealt with by a young boy like you? Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish and let you know what a yellow level warrior is before you die. Don't think that you are invincible, just because you have learned some three-legged cat kung fu. Feng Lang laughed loudly, slowly stood up, and walked towards Wu Heo. Xiang Yi glanced at Grandpa Wu and frowned slightly. Obviously, he was worried. He invited Grandpa Wu to come, and he didn't think that he could solve this matter with a grandson. My grandson has been practicing Bajikwan with me since he was a child. Now his internal strength has improved a little. Even if he can't defeat Feng Lang, he can still protect himself. Old Master Wu stroked his beard and said confidently, his grandson is very talented. He also wants to take this opportunity to let his grandson compete with masters, which is also a training for him. Master Huo snorted coldly and didn't say anything. He didn't mind someone taking the initiative to test this enemy, to see what kind of strength he has, so that he can be prepared. Wu Hao was furious when he heard Feng Lang's words. He felt that his family kung fu was insulted. He roared and stomped his feet fiercely. Like a cannonball, he rushed towards Feng Language. Wu Hao leaned forward and kept the charging posture. He exerted force with his calf, pushed out from bottom to top with his right shoulder, and leaned against the mountain. The whole person was like a mad bull and rushed towards Feng Lang with an indomitable momentum. He was confident that if he succeeded, the opponent would be either dead or injured. Old Master Wu nodded secretly, very satisfied with his grandson. Wu Hao used this move just right, but the details were not perfect. Facing the bull like Wu Hao, Feng Lang smiled coldly, stood firmly in place, and punched Wu Hao. Everyone felt that Feng Lang's punch stirred up the air, as if the place where his fist passed became a vacuum zone, and everyone's heart was lifted. It was not as everyone thought. The two people did not collide violently, or there was a loud noise. In silence, a figure flew backwards. It was the bull like Wu Hao. His right shoulder collapsed, half of his body was stained red, and the whole person collapsed on the ground like mud, and his life or death was unknown. Xiao Hao. Old Master Wu stood up and shouted loudly, startled in his heart. This was his only grandson. If something really happened, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Don't worry, he won't die yet. I don't bother to kill him for such a rookie, but he will have to lie down for a year or two. Ha ha ha. Feng Lang laughed loudly. Okay, then I'll meet you. Old Master Wu roared and walked towards Feng Language. After calming down, he didn't have much confidence in winning against Feng Language. No one knew his grandson's strength better than him. This man could beat his grandson with one punch, which he himself asked himself. It was difficult to do, but no matter what, he had to take action to avenge his grandson and wash away the shame of the 8th level. 8th level punch witty, please. Old Master Wu was a martial artist of the older generation and attached great importance to the etiquette and rules of martial arts competitions. Old man, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and make a move. You won't have a chance when I make a move. Feng Lang sneered, very disdainful of the old man. You, very good. Old Master Wu was so angry that he was arrogant, really too arrogant. Old Master Wu could no longer maintain the demeanor of a hermit. He rushed up with anger on his face, using his internal strength, and slapped Feng Lang one palm after another. Grandpa Wu's palms were white, and there seemed to be a layer of white film on them. Each palm seemed to have no power, but in fact it could break stones. One could imagine what the effect would be if this palm was pressed on a person. Feng Lang did not dare to neglect it either. He used his internal strength to fight with Grandpa Wu. The two of them had exchanged more than a dozen moves in an instant. The two of them were as fast as lightning. Xiang Yi and others could not see their movements at all. Wherever they passed, the marble floor had dense spider web-like cracks, which made everyone stunned. Is this still a human? Wherever he walked, the marble floor cracked. Xiang Yi sighed in his heart. This is the power of a yellow level warrior. It has completely surpassed the cognition of ordinary people. At the same time, he was afraid. He had always thought that with his current power, it was difficult for anyone to threaten him. However, he did not know that the real world was not what he imagined. This kind of warrior could easily crush him to death. The more Mr. Xiang thought about it, the more scared he became. Fortunately, he invited Mr. Wu and Mr. Huo, otherwise there would be no one to deal with his enemy. Thinking back to when he was chasing him, how could he become so powerful in just a few years? What on earth did he go through? Mr. Xiang had already made up his mind. If he could get through this disaster today smoothly, he would definitely hire a bodyguard of a yellow level warrior, no matter how much money he spent. Compared with money, life is more important. Who knows when the enemy will hire such a warrior to deal with him? The head of the Wang family was even more frightened. In his world, the special forces bodyguards were the top existence. When had he ever seen such a person? This completely refreshed his cognition. This time he also brought several top bodyguards in the family, one of whom was also said to be a yellow level warrior, but in actual combat, he was only at the level of those special forces bodyguards, and was only a little bit stronger. So he didn't have a deep impression of these yellow level warriors, but now seeing the fight between Mr. Wu and Feng Lang, it was not just two people fighting, but two humanoid monsters. He had already decided to go back and hold a meeting to study this issue carefully. The family's security force had discovered a huge loophole. Su Weifeng watched carefully. He was one of the few people on the field who could see their movements clearly. The fight between these two people was also the first fight between yellow level warriors he saw. It was not like the fights he had on the battlefield, where every move was aimed at the vital points and was bloody and tragic, but it was more dangerous. Every punch or palm could be fatal. Chapter 894, Master Huo's defeat. The two men on the field fought for dozens of rounds and finally separated after a muffled bang. One stood still while the other flew out and fell on his back on the ground with blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. When everyone saw clearly, they were all shocked. The man standing on the field was not the old man Woody they had expected, but the scarred man. Old Man Wu was defeated. Old Man Wu was actually defeated. People could not accept this fact for a while. They all regarded Old Man Wu as a savior. I didn't expect you to have such great internal strength. It seems that I underestimated you. I didn't lose unfairly. Old Man Wu barely stood up and said weakly, as if he had aged all of a sudden. The internal strength he had always been proud of was vulnerable in front of this man. He knew that this man was not serious at first, otherwise he would not be able to support dozens of rounds, and would have been defeated long ago. What's the point of having great internal strength? You have been in a small place for too long, like a frog in a well, and have never seen what a master is. Feng Lang sneered. It turned out that he was hunted by Xiang Yi and fled overseas. He was fortunate to be a disciple of Master. After learning, he joined a foreign mercenary organization and went through the baptism of killing and fire on the battlefield to hone his martial arts. His kung fu is not comparable to that of Mr. Wu's own practice. It was tempered in an environment of life and death. Even if he met an opponent of equal strength, Feng Lang could kill the opponent. Su Weifeng also nodded secretly. He himself was a mercenary, and he was one of the top mercenary groups in the world. He knew the cruelty of mercenaries in war. Which veteran who survived did not crawl out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood? It's like a tiger in a zoo and a wild tiger. They are the same species, but their strength and lethality are very different. You are indeed a master, but you should try my skills. Master Huo stood up with a sneer. He was very angry when he told Feng Lang that they were all frogs in the well. He was the authentic descendant of Huo's boxing, which was different from the side branch of Bajiquan like Mr. Wu. Hahaha, you really don't know how to live or die. Then I will help you. Feng Lang laughed and went to meet him. Master Huo was worthy of being the descendant of Huo's boxing. As soon as he made a move, he showed a sky full of fist shadows, which were both real and illusory. Feng Lang rarely became solemn. He didn't expect that there was really a master among the people invited by Mr. Xiang. This boxing already had the taste of power. He only felt that the world was pressing down on him, which made him look extremely small. Feng Lang moved around. His martial arts tended to be tough and straightforward, while Master Huo was soft and technical, and he seemed to have 3 heads and 6 arms under the shadow of fists. Feng Lang was not to be outdone and rushed forward. The two of them fought together, and it was difficult to tell who would win. Su Weifeng was also surprised. He didn't expect that Master Huo was really good. Just this boxing showed the style of Master, which was definitely not comparable to ordinary martial artists. This was everyone's foundation. Xiang Yi gradually smiled. Although he didn't understand it very well, it was obvious that Feng Lang was at a disadvantage and was a little frustrated, while Master Huo looked at ease. The difference was immediately determined. Wang Zhengtai was shocked at this time. He didn't expect that martial artists could be so strong. He felt that his taekwondo was the top martial arts. He lost to Su Weifeng just because he didn't practice enough. As long as he continued to work hard and improve his rank, that mere Su Weifeng would not be able to do anything to him. Just now, the duel between Feng Lang and Mr. Wu was nothing. Both of them were fighting head on, and they didn't feel that powerful. But now Master Huo's Kung Fu has made Wang Zhengtai incomprehensible. Why does he feel like he has 3 heads and 6 arms? This is completely different from the simple kicks of Taekwondo. Compared with Master Huo's martial arts, Wang Zhengtai felt a little bitter. Could it be that he really practiced fancy boxing and embroidered kicks? Feng Lang was also surprised that his decisive killing moves could not do anything to Master Huo for a while, but he was not panicked. Just now, he was just playing around. Now I will show you my real strength. Feng Lang's momentum suddenly surged, and a faint white film flashed on the surface of his body. The whole person exuded a heavy and majestic momentum. Under this momentum, Master Huo only felt difficulty breathing, as if a huge rock was pressing on his chest, and his boxing skills were not as flexible as before. Zuan level? Master Huo was shocked and retreated. He had only one thought in his mind, which was to escape. Feng Lang's mouth slightly raised, and he took a step forward. The ground shook, and his body flew out suddenly. Master Huo was shocked. Seeing Feng Lang getting closer and closer, he knew that he could not avoid it this time. He gritted his teeth and took Feng Lang's terrifying blow. The two of them collided, and the difference was obvious. Feng Lang stood firmly in place, while Master Huo flew back more than 10 meters, and only stopped when he hit the stone table fixed on the ground. He spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his eyes still showed a look of fear. Zuan level? How is it possible? Master Huo exclaimed. Haha, I'm not Zuan level yet, but I'm one step away. Feng Lang said with a sinister smile. At this time, Master Xiang felt like he was falling into the abyss, and shouted in fear, hurry up and kill him. Master Huo was the last resort of Master Xiang. Seeing that Master Huo was no match for him, Master Xiang was desperate, but he still had gunmen. The ones he brought today were all sharpshooters who had served in the army, and they were far from those ordinary gangsters. Following the order from Mr. Xiang, 5 dark shadows appeared in the bushes, on the trees, and behind the rockery in the distance. The muzzles of their guns pointed at the scarred man. The gunshots rang out, but the scarred man did not hit him. The scarred man pounced to the side, a standard military move, and casually threw a flying knife, hitting the throat of a gunman. He did not stop after the successful attack, and instantly appeared in another position, throwing another knife, killing another gunman. The remaining gunmen felt cold in their hearts, feeling that they were not facing a person, but a god of death. After a few breaths, all the gunmen were silent. It has been less than 10 minutes since Feng Lang appeared on the stage. He defeated Wu Hao, Wudi, and Master Huo, 3 warriors, and killed all the gunmen. Now they were dead and injured at the scene. The rest of the people looked at this figure who looked like the god of death in horror. Only Su Weifeng was still there eating snacks and drinking tea, but no one paid attention to him, and Feng Lang chose to ignore him. Wang Zhengtai and his father were hiding behind the table, not daring to say a word. Facing such a powerful warrior, the head of the Wang family had completely lost his deterrent power. He had brought bodyguards with him to help Xiang Yi, but now he dared not to make a move. The bodyguards he brought were hiding behind him, not daring to make a move. Feng Lang walked towards Xiang Yi step by step, ignoring the others. Now the others present were like ants to him, and only Xiang Yi was left in his eyes. Xiang Yi's face was as hen, and his legs were weak. Fortunately, he was sitting on a stone bench. If there was no stone bench, he would have collapsed on the ground. Although he had experienced various situations and had reached his current status, it did not mean that he was not afraid of death. Moreover, he had no power to fight back and could not even fight the enemy to a draw. He could only wait for death to come. Feng Lang, we have known each other for a long time. I'm willing to give you half of my property as compensation. It will be great if we can control this Chinatown together. Xiang Yi wanted to struggle a bit, but he didn't dare to say all his property. He was still reluctant to give it up. Chapter 895 I'll save your life. Haha, you have the nerve to say that with your little property. I would care about that little property? Feng Lang walked to Xiang Yi and stopped, saying disdainfully, I've said that you people are frogs in the well, your warriors are, and you are too. I have been traveling overseas for so many years, and the wealth accumulated is far beyond your imagination. You are all bound by this small place. Gallon. What is Gallon, and what is Madagascar? Feng Lang looked into the distance, like a local overlord. You think you are a big boss, but you are just a small person. Feng Lang slapped Xiang Yi's face with his hand and said sarcastically. Xiang Yi was slapped in the face in front of everyone. This was really a slap in the face, but he did not avoid it. He was numb and just waited for death to come. Suddenly, Xiang Yi moved. He stood up, which was beyond everyone's expectations. With a plop, Xiang Yi knelt down. Lord Wolf, I was wrong. Please spare my life. I will give you all my property and leave Gallon immediately and never come back. The last straw of life is gone. In the face of death, Lord Xiang gave up all his face and just wanted to survive. How could he be a big boss in Chinatown? He was no different from ordinary people. And you know, I'm with the Duran family. If you kill me, the Duran family will not let you go. Lord Xiang continued, adding some weight to himself, hoping to put pressure on Feng Lang with the help of the Duran family. Ha 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 ha, the Duran family is so powerful. I really don't want to provoke those crazy people, but it doesn't mean I'm afraid of them. I didn't plan to stay in Gallon. If I kill you, I will leave immediately. Can the Duran family chase me overseas? If they really come to my territory, I will make them never come back. Humph. Feng Lang sneered, obviously not caring about Lord Xiang's threats at all. The head of the Wang family was moved. The reason why he came today was because he was afraid that Feng Lang wanted to come to Jailan to share a piece of the pie. The addition of a new force would inevitably affect his own interests. However, it seemed that Feng Lang was not going to stay in Jailan permanently, but just to kill Xiang Yi. This was an opportunity for him. Once Xiang Yi fell, his property would definitely be eaten up by other family forces, and he was the first to know the news. This way, he could take the lead and get the biggest piece of the pie. Thinking of this, his eyes lit up, and his heart became excited. He was already thinking about the next move. Please forgive me. You and I are from two different worlds now. Don't argue with me. Xiang Yi begged, almost crying. Ha ha ha, let you go? Don't have any more illusions. Today, not only you, but everyone present will die. This is the price of helping you. Feng Lang laughed and said. He had waited for this moment for too long, and all the resentment in his heart was vented. Ah, don't kill me. Wang Zhengte exclaimed. He originally thought that he was just here to watch the fun, but how could he lose his life watching the fun? He was immediately heartbroken and regretted it to the extreme. Mr. Feng, we don't want to interfere in the feud between you and Mr. Xiang. We remain neutral. We are not enemies. The head of the Wang family also hurriedly said. He was planning how to annex Mr. Xiang's property. Now he was going to die, and he was panicking. He didn't think that his bodyguards could protect him. Blame Mr. Xiang. He invited you to die together. Feng Lang said coldly, and was ready to take action. Obviously, he didn't intend to let anyone go. Everyone was desperate, as if they were sentenced to death. Suddenly a voice rang out. Mr. Xiang, give me 100 million, and I will save your life. Su Weifeng was still drinking tea there, and said in a calm voice. Feng Lang frowned. He didn't expect that someone would dare to say this in front of him, wanting to save the person he was going to kill. Feng Lang turned around and saw a young man with an ordinary appearance and a small stature, eating and drinking in the corner, completely ignoring everything on the field, and seemed to be aloof. He saw this young man when he just came, but how could an ordinary young man catch his eye? So he was ignored. Who are you? Feng Lang's face was gloomy, and he was angry. An ordinary young man dared to speak like this in front of him. Who gave him the courage, or did he rely on something? Could he be the descendant of some big shot? But what if he was a big shot? I must kill this Xiang Yi today. Su Weifeng ignored Feng Lang at all. He turned his head and looked at Xiang Yi, who was kneeling on the ground. Xiang Yi, how is it? Su Weifeng saw that Xiang Yi still had no reaction and frowned slightly. Xiang Yi groaned in his heart. He knew that Su Weifeng was very powerful, but he was also an external martial artist. He had no power to fight back against this internal martial artist who had entered the level. He relied on Grandpa Wu and Master Huo today. He only went to Su Weifeng to build a relationship, Now that Grandpa Wu and the others were defeated, what use would you have? You would just die. Xiang Yi wanted to agree but didn't dare. Boy, you people here are really self-righteous. No matter whether you are old or young, you think you are invincible. You want to deal with me. You really don't know how to live or die. Feng Lang was furious and glared at Su Weifeng. He was repeatedly despised today, which made him, who was arrogant, furious and on the verge of exploding. Of course I'm not invincible, but I still have no problem dealing with you. Su Weifeng stood up and said disdainfully, and walked towards Feng Lang at the same time. Okay, very good, then I will see what kind of heaven-shaking methods you, a master, have. Feng Lang shouted, and his heart was already extremely angry. Wang Zhengtai, this kid is really looking for death. He thinks he is great, just because he knows some martial arts. What a fool. Didn't you see that Master Huo couldn't defeat him just now? No matter how powerful you are, it's a great pleasure to see you die here. Xiang Yi, alas, I hope you can kill Feng Lang, but how is it possible? How can I do it? Master Huo, this ignorant kid, this peak yellow level warrior is not something you can challenge. He is really looking for death. He will suffer for his own sins. Su Weifeng has come to Feng Lang, and he has used his true energy. His figure suddenly disappeared. When everyone saw clearly, he had come to Feng Lang's side and pointed his finger at Feng Lang's throat like a knife. This is also a killing skill that Su Weifeng has explored on the battlefield. He smashes the enemy's neck with a hand knife and kills with one blow. Moreover, after meeting so many warriors, Su Weifeng also had a new understanding of the use of true ki. He covered his palm with true ki. This hand knife was no longer a blunt attack, but an increased sharp breath, really like a tactical dagger. Feng Lang didn't take this young man seriously at first, thinking that he could easily kill him in the future, but after this young man's move, he knew that he was really wrong. This young man's body movement was as fast as a ghost. He only felt a strong wind passing through his neck, and the hair on his neck stood up. This was the keen perception trained by years of fighting on the battlefield. Feng Lang didn't dare to take it hard. He leaned back and barely dodged this swift hand knife, but a chill came from his neck, and then he felt a heat flow on his neck. He subconsciously touched his neck with his hand, and found that a blood mark had been cut by the strong wind on his neck, and blood was oozing out. How is it possible? Feng Lang was shocked. A yellow level warrior can infuse his internal force into a part of his body, and his internal force attack also has a blunt effect. A black level warrior has a greatly increased internal force, which can be spread all over his body, greatly increasing his attack and defense power. In addition, his internal force attack will also have a sharp effect, such as his hand is like a real steel knife. This is obviously the case with the young man just now. He is now at the peak of the yellow level. Even if he is also a yellow level peak warrior, he dares to fight. However, if he faces a black level warrior, he will have no chance of winning. The difference of this level is a world of difference, and he will be directly crushed. Chapter 896 Yuazuan level. At this moment, everyone present was watching this scene in disbelief. With just one move, the nearly invincible Feng Lang's neck was already bleeding. He had obviously suffered a great loss. Feng Lang looked like he had seen a ghost, standing there in a daze. On the other hand, the young man was calm and composed, as if nothing had happened. The difference between the two was immediately apparent. Others were just watching the fun, and only saw that Su Weifeng was very strong, but they didn't have any other feelings. However, Old Man Wu and Master Huo were shocked. They had practiced for so many years and only achieved the great perfection of the yellow level. Feng Lang could practice to the peak of the yellow level at this age, half a step to the mysterious level, which was already a genius. However, this young man was actually at the mysterious level. Such a young mysterious level simply refreshed their cognition. Others couldn't see it, but they could see it clearly. The unique internal force attribute of the mysterious level was sharp and tough. The internal force was as sharp as a knife. It was as if he was carrying a sharp weapon when he was barehanded. This Su Weifeng was definitely at the mysterious level. Master Huo complained in his heart. He looked down on this young man and said he was nobody. Perhaps he was nobody in his heart. He couldn't help but smile bitterly when he thought of this. Master Xiang was shining with light, as if he suddenly regained vitality. He thought he was doomed to die, but now there was a turn for the better. Moreover, this turn for the better happened to Su Weifeng, whom he didn't pay much attention to. He hated it so much. If he had known this, he would have been respectful. Today, he obviously neglected Mr. Su. He didn't know if he would blame him. Zuan level, you are actually Zuan level, Feng Lang said with some fear. Su Weifeng looked at him coldly and didn't say anything. Feng Lang thought it was a tacit agreement. In fact, Su Weifeng didn't know what was going on with his current level, so he couldn't answer him at all. I'm the crazy wolf of the ice gate. Who are you? Feng Lang reported his origins for the first time after arriving in Galan. This was also the time he met Su Weifeng. He didn't bother to tell other people. He also wanted to test Su Weifeng's background to see which sect he belonged to and whether he could establish some relationship with him. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to escape unscathed today when facing a Zuan level martial artist. Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng frowned and simply said his name. He couldn't tell the origin of his martial arts. He couldn't say that he was from the White Bear sect. White Bear was his senior brother, right? Wouldn't that be considered a mental patient? So he could only skip it. Now he was even more curious about his martial arts. He heard from old Han that his true ki was at the heaven level, but he was obviously not. And this Feng Lang said that he was at the Zuan level. What were the characteristics of the Zuan level? Su Weifeng was completely confused. He really wanted to go to the cave again. Now he wanted to figure this out. Feng Lang frowned when he saw that Su Weifeng did not report his sect at all. He looked down on him, but he was relieved in an instant. He was not an ordinary yellow level, but a mysterious level. According to the teacher, the mysterious level can already dominate the world. If the master does not come out, the mysterious level can go anywhere. For such a person, it is normal to look down on himself, a yellow level. He could only sigh in his heart. When everyone was surprised by Su Weifeng's strength, Feng Lang suddenly moved, but he did not rush to Su Weifeng, but rushed towards the river. He knew that he had no chance of winning against this young man. If he didn't run, he would die. Mr. Su, don't let him run. Xiang Yi shouted loudly. He didn't dare to let the tiger go back to the mountain. This time he almost lost his life. If it weren't for Su Weifeng who saved him in the end, he would probably be dead now. Su Weifeng sneered in his heart. If he wanted to fight, he would fight. If he wanted to run, he would run. How could it be so easy? He moved his feet and suddenly shot out, catching up with Feng Lang in an instant. Feng Lang was startled when he heard the footsteps. He knew that the young man was already behind him. Comparing internal strength was like hitting a rock with an egg. It was courting death. He rolled sideways quickly, and at the same time, a flying knife appeared in both hands. The two flying knives shot towards Su Weifeng with the sound of breaking through the air. Su Weifeng sneered. This flying knife was a powerful weapon for others, but it was just like a toy for him. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed the two flying knives in front of him. He had already applied the true energy to his palm and wanted to test the strength of the palm after the true energy was infused. After grabbing the flying knife, he threw it directly. Feng Lang, who had turned around and wanted to run, cried out inwardly when he heard the sound of breaking through the air, but it was too late to dodge. He only felt pain in both calves at the same time. The two flying knives had been inserted into both calves at the same time. Feng Lang only felt a stream of energy flowing into his body through his calf meridians. The meridians inside his body could not withstand this energy, and many meridians were broken. He knew that it was the opponent's internal force that was poured into his body through the flying knife. What kind of internal force was this? It was so powerful that it was useless to mobilize his internal force to block it. It was not a hindrance at all. Looking at Feng Lang, who had fallen to the ground and could not get up, Su Weifeng shook his head. Although Feng Lang had been a mercenary, he was obviously not comparable to his own mercenary group. His fighting style was too rough. He fought completely with a fierce force and strong internal force. It was okay to meet ordinary people, and he could break all the methods with one force, but it was over when he met himself. There was no chance at all. This time, Su Weifeng also had a general understanding of his own strength. His strength should be higher than the peak of the yellow level, at least it should be the level of the mysterious level. As for how he ranked in the mysterious level, He didn't know. Mr. Su, thanks to you this time. Don't worry, I will transfer the 100 million to you tomorrow. Thank you so much, Mr. Su. Zhang Yi also came over at this time, smiling and excited. The situation changed too quickly, which was completely beyond his expectations. He wanted to exchange all his wealth for his life, but his enemy didn't give him this opportunity. When he was ready to die, Mr. Su killed his enemy again. This happiness came too suddenly. For a moment, he couldn't believe it was true. If someone wanted his 100 million, it would be impossible. Life is more important than money. However, after walking on the edge of death, he felt that the 100 million was worth it. After saying that, Zhang Yi walked towards Feng Lang, his face full of viciousness. Su Weifeng was very satisfied with Zhang Yi's attitude. He hated people who went back on their words the most. He promised to pay the reward, and then refused to pay. Considering that Zhang Yi was so straightforward, he reminded him, Feng Lang is just injured, and he hasn't lost his mobility yet. Su Weifeng said casually. As soon as he walked to Feng Lang's side, he heard Su Weifeng's words. Zhang Yi was so scared that he jumped up and ran behind Su Weifeng in a panic. Sweat appeared on his head. He was scared. He thought Feng Lang was seriously injured and unconscious. He still had the ability to move. If he just gave him a flying knife, he would be dead. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 897, Blackmailing the Wang Family. Su Weifeng found Zhang Yi's expression very funny. Now he no longer looked like a powerful boss, but more like a little girl frightened by a mouse. He has internal injuries and can't threaten you in the short term, Su Weifeng said with a smile. Zhang Yi was still in shock and made a gesture to his remaining men. 5 or 6 men came over immediately and, at Zhang Yi's signal, fired at Feng Lang, who was lying on the ground. Feng Lang never thought that this revenge would end like this, and he would eventually die under the random gunfire of ordinary people. Su Weifeng didn't care about Zhang Yi's behavior. He was not a saintly person. If it were him, he would not let his enemy live. If you don't get rid of the roots, they will grow again in the spring breeze. Mr. Su, you've worked hard today. Let's go to my club and relax. Zhang Yi gave Su Weifeng a smile that all men understand. He felt that the 100 million he spent was worth it. Not only did he save his life, but he also established a relationship with a Zuan level strongman like Mr. Su. A Huang level warrior could crush all his subordinates and almost killed him. In his mind, the Zuan level warriors who were higher than the Huang level warriors were like Superman. No need, Zhang Yi. Just send me home later. My girlfriend is waiting for me at home, Su Weifeng said with a smile. He was not interested in Zhang Yi's hospitality. Do you need to go out to find a woman? He has several girlfriends. Haha, Mr. Su is really a good man, a role model for our generation. Monkey, send Mr. Su back, Zhang Yi said with a smile. A very thin young man came out and looked at Su Weifeng with admiration. He was simply a martial god. These little hooligans were all small timers. Where had they seen such a master? Isn't this only seen on TV? Su Weifeng motioned him to wait, and then walked towards Wang Zhengtai. Wang Zhengtai was frightened by how strong Su Weifeng was. He looked at Su Weifeng with gritted teeth, feeling that it would be difficult to avenge his revenge. Then he saw Su Weifeng walking towards him, and his legs became weak with fear. The head of the Wang family also stared at Su Weifeng, not knowing what he was going to do. Mr. Su, what's the matter? The head of the Wang family put on a majestic look, but he didn't dare to call him kid anymore. Master Wang, I remember you wanted to avenge your son just now, right? Su Weifeng said coldly. The head of the Wang family felt a little nervous, thinking that I didn't know your strength just now. If I knew, I wouldn't dare to do it. No warrior in our Wang family can deal with you. Mr. Su, you are joking. The child is ignorant. Don't argue with him. It was all misunderstandings before. Just solve them, the head of the Wang family said nervously. Then this matter is over, Su Weifeng said calmly. The head of the Wang family was shocked. He didn't expect that the young man could easily get away with it. If it were him, he would definitely not let the other person go so easily. It seems that he is still too young and immature. It is easy to fool. The head of the Wang family was proud and relieved. Xiang Yi only remembered the conflict between Su Weifeng and the Wang family at this time. He just said that he would deal with this matter after solving his enemies. He just forgot it. But it would be easy to deal with Mr. Su now that he doesn't pursue it. I think the Wang family dare not say anything. After all, the strength shown by Mr. Su is simply beyond the reach of the Wang family. Thinking of this, Xiang Yi also breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want to offend both sides. Such a peaceful solution is the best. When the head of the Wang family was proud, Su Weifeng spoke again. This matter is over, and it's time to settle the account of buying your lives just now. Su Weifeng said with a smile, but his eyes were full of coldness. What? The head of the Wang family frowned and said, didn't you hear me just now? Feng Lang wants to kill all of you. I said that the money for life is 100 million per person. Of course, Xiang Yi will not default on the debt. For the two of you from the Wang family, I will give you 100 million at a lower price. Su Weifeng said seriously. You are blackmailing me. I won't give you money. The head of the Wang family was angry. It's okay to talk about anything, but don't talk about money with him. Talking about money is too hurtful. Oh, you want money but not life. Su Weifeng's voice also became cold, and there was a murderous intent on his face. Su Weifeng, I don't believe you dare to kill us. If you kill us, you can't escape. The Wang family will never stop fighting you. Although Wang Zhengtai was afraid, he still shouted loudly. He also thought that Su Weifeng was blackmailing them. Xiang Yi looked at the father and son of the Wang family as if they were fools. Just now, he still saw that the head of the Wang family was gloating over the misfortune, waiting for his death to swallow up his industry. So if he had to choose, he would still choose Su Weifeng's side. Now Su Weifeng is the strongest here, even stronger than Feng language. Feng Lang can force me to use all my wealth to buy my life, and Mr. Su can take your life even more. Besides, you and Mr. Su have conflicts, so it is easy to kill you. I believe that no one present will care about you. At most, they will deal with all the people you brought, saying that they were killed by Feng Lang, and then Mr. Su killed Feng Lang to avenge you. Even if someone suspects me, there is no evidence. I can still control my own people. Can't you two fools think of this? You dare to provoke Mr. Su, isn't it looking for death? And I have paid 100 million for revenge. Why do you, the father and son of the Wang family, take advantage of me? Why don't you have to pay? Xiang Yi was very dissatisfied. Thinking of this, Xiang Yi's eyes also revealed murderous intent. He was ready. As long as Su Weifeng took action, he would let his men deal with Wang's men. At this moment, Xiang Yi's heroic nature was revealed. He was decisive in killing, and ruthless in abandoning those who should be abandoned. The head of the Wang family was a little nervous. After all, the person in front of him was stronger than Feng language. However, he really didn't want to pay so much money. He subconsciously looked at Xiang Yi, wanting Xiang Yi to solve it. Suddenly, he had an idea, and saw Xiang Yi's murderous eyes. The target was himself. He was very thoughtful to be able to reach the position of the head of the family. He understood what was going on in an instant. He knew that he couldn't expect Xiang Yi to help him at this time. Xiang Yi was also a hungry wolf. If he relied on Xiang Yi, he would be out of the tiger's den, and into the wolf's den. His mind quickly calculated the gains and losses, and made a decision immediately. Mr. Su, we will transfer it to your account tomorrow. The head of the Wang family hurriedly said, fearing that Su Weifeng would regret it. Su Weifeng sneered, looked at Wang Zhengtai with disdain, and walked out with Monkey. Dad, how can you agree to him? That's 100 million. Wang Zhengtai said to his father angrily, wondering if his father was old and confused. Shut up. If you don't want to die, then be honest. It would be in vain for Mr. Su to kill you. Do you really want to die? The head of the Wang family slapped Wang Zhengtai in the face and shouted in a low voice. Wang Zhengtai was stunned and didn't understand what was going on for a while, but he didn't dare to contradict his father again. He looked at the direction where Su Weifeng was going away with resentment. Chapter 898 Strange Bunny. Seeing that the head of the Wang family had given up, Xiang Yi sneered disdainfully, but immediately smiled again, and thanked the head of the Wang family for coming to help today. He thanked him profusely, but did not mention the 100 million yuan reward. The head of the Wang family forced a smile, and left with Wang Zhengtai in disgrace. At the Wang family villa, all the powerful people gathered in the hall. They were all called here by the head of the Wang family who had just returned. Many people were sleepy, and didn't know what big thing had happened. Dad, how could you give him 100 million yuan? Is my leg broken in vain? Wang Zhengtai said with a gloomy face. Brother, what's going on with our Zheng? Who did it? A middle-aged man who just returned to the Wang family today said. He is the younger brother of the head of the Wang family, Wang Jiao. He has been working outside and has not been home for many years, but he also knows the current status of the Wang family in Galan. Who dares to break the leg of the eldest son of the Wang family? The head of the Wang family told him in detail what happened, including the appointment with Mr. Xiang today, and the 100 million reward. Wang Zhengtai also supplemented it, and added fuel to the fire from time to time. Not only Wang Jiao, but all the Wang family members were angry. The Wang family has been standing in Galan for decades. No one has dared to provoke the Wang family for a long time. Moreover, Su Weifeng was not just provoking, but also trampling the Wang family under his feet, and robbing them hard. As the people of the Wang family have always been strong, they can't stand this anger. Several of them wanted to send people to catch this kid. Stop, do you know what a yellow level warrior is? What about the black level? The main figures of the Wang family did not sleep all night, and held a meeting at the Wang family villa. The final result was to take a long-term view. For a warrior like Su Weifeng, conventional means cannot be used to deal with it. It must be planned carefully. As for the 100 million reward, the Wang family certainly did not give it out so easily. When Su Weifeng was sent home by Monkey, it was just the time when the bar closed. Su Weifeng did not go upstairs, but waited outside the hotel for Chu Xiaotu to come back and take a breath of fresh air. At this time, Chu Xiaotu called. As soon as Su Weifeng answered the phone, Chu Xiaotu's voice came. Honey, I'm not going back to live today. I'm going to stay at Sister Fifa's place for a day. Chu Xiaotu said happily. Okay, go to bed early, and don't play till late. Su Weifeng instructed, and did not ask the reason. He knew that Chu Xiaotu and Mo Fenny were getting along well now. Going to Mo Fenny's place to live these days was probably some girl's whispers. Su Weifeng smiled, and went back to his room. Su Weifeng slept very uneasily that night, and was often awakened by nightmares. He hugged the place beside him habitually, and found that Chu Xiaotu was not in bed. Then he remembered that Chu Xiaotu went to Mo Fenny's house. Su Weifeng shook his head and smiled bitterly. Now he was used to having Chu Xiaotu by his side. He also had another tie. He was afraid that it would be difficult to be free as before after returning to the army. The next morning, Su Weifeng called Chu Xiaotu to see if she would come back during the day. When he called, it was turned off. Maybe it was out of power and she hadn't gotten up yet. Chu Xiaotu usually liked to stay in bed, so he didn't think much about it. Just after breakfast in the morning, the phone rang with the sound of a transfer. Su Weifeng saw that it was Xiang Yi's 100 million. This Xiang Yi was really positive, and he couldn't help but smile. But the Wang family's 100 million might not be so easy to give. Su Weifeng thought about it, and narrowed his eyes, with a cold light in his eyes. Sure enough, the Wang family didn't make any movement for a whole day, so Su Weifeng understood the Wang family's attitude. They didn't want to pay the reward, but I, Su Weifeng, am not so easy to get. In the evening, Su Weifeng called Chu Xiaotu, but no one answered. With a bad feeling in his heart, Su Weifeng changed his clothes, and went straight to the bar. When he arrived at the bar, it was already opening time. Mo Fenny was mixing drinks at the bar, and Chu Xiaotu was also greeting guests between the tables. It was no different from usual. As soon as she saw Su Weifeng, Chu Xiaotu ran over, hugged Su Weifeng's arm, and rubbed against him. Her eyes were as charming as silk, and her eyes were about to drip with water. She exuded the smell of hormones. Is this a new skill she learned from staying at Mo Fenny's house for a night? This charming look, coupled with her cute appearance, Su Weifeng couldn't control himself. What did Xiao and Mo Fei learn? Looking at Mo Fei's usual indifferent appearance, it doesn't seem like she would seduce a man. Su Weifeng thought to himself. Why didn't you answer the phone when I called you? I was worried that something had happened to you. Su Weifeng pretended to be angry. Honey, I lost my phone. I don't know where it fell. Chu Xiao said aggrievedly, and tears were about to flow down her face. Su Weifeng couldn't stand Chu Xiao crying, so he coaxed her and promised to take her to buy a new phone tomorrow. Only then did Chu Xiao burst into laughter. Chu Xiao went to work happily, and Su Weifeng came to the bar. At this time, Mo Fei also stopped what she was doing. She knew that the boss hadn't come for several days, and he must have something to do today. Is there something wrong with Xiao? Su Weifeng pretended to smile and talk to Mo Fei, but he was watching Chu Xiao over there from the corner of his eye. Mo Fei was also startled by Su Weifeng's sudden question. He thought to himself, what does the boss mean by asking this? Could it be that Chu Xiao has another boyfriend, or someone is pursuing Xiao? It shouldn't be. Xiao is very infatuated with Liu Ben. Now she has just fallen in love. Even if she likes someone else, it won't be at this stage. I didn't notice anything wrong with Xiao. She just seemed absent-minded today. She got the wrong wine several times. Did she have a quarrel with the boss? Mo Fei thought for a while and said, did Xiao live at your house yesterday? Su Weifeng asked in a low voice, but he still had a smile on his face. Yes, Xiao lived at my house. Xiao called you last night. Mo Fei said in confusion. It's okay. I'm just curious why she suddenly lived at your place. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Seeing Mo Fei say this, he felt relieved. But the next sentence from Mo Fei made Su Weifeng more suspicious. I'm also confused. Xiao insisted on staying at my place last night. I thought she had some secret to tell me, but she said she was sleepy and went to sleep. I'm also confused. Mo Fei was also confused, so she told Su Weifeng. Just as Su Weifeng was about to speak, he saw Chu Xiao coming over from the corner of his eye. Su Weifeng was still smiling. Mo Fei, you really need to hire more people. There are so many customers now. You guys are too hardworking. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Mo Fei understood. Although the boss didn't know why she had to tell Chu Xiao behind her back, she also felt a little strange. She immediately cooperated with Su Weifeng's words and discussed the bar's problems in a serious manner. Chu Xiao came to the bar and didn't say anything when she heard what they said. She threw a wink at Su Weifeng and left again. Chapter 899. Hit. Su Weifeng and Mo Fei were still studying the issue of recruiting people until Chu Xiao walked away. The two of them shut up at the same time, and the atmosphere suddenly became weird. Boss, Xiao seems to be a little abnormal. She is not like this normally. Mo Fei also saw something wrong. Although Chu Xiao and the boss were in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, they would not be too intimate in the bar. Moreover, with Chu Xiao's simple nature, she would not do such provocative things. I thought she went to your house, and you taught her. Xiao is a simple girl, and doesn't know these. Su Weifeng frowned, and said a little uneasy. How could I teach Xiao these? Mo Fei rolled his eyes. After getting familiar with Su Weifeng and Chu Xiao, he showed more expressions in front of them. Su Weifeng also knew that it was impossible for Mo Fei to teach her. Mo Fei treated everyone with an indifferent look. She didn't even smile at him when he gave her a salary increase. How could such a girl tease a man? She was still not as good as Xiao in this aspect. Su Weifeng and Mo Fei spent the night with deep doubts, but on the surface nothing happened, and they looked very normal. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the last wave of guests finally left. The few people simply packed up and closed the door. Mo Fei and another waiter left first. Before leaving, Mo Fei looked at Su Weifeng meaningfully and nodded at him gently. Xiao, let's go and drive. Su Weifeng said to Chu Xiao with a smile. Hurry up, husband, I can't wait. I didn't see you last night. Chu Xiao licked her lips with her tongue while speaking. Me too. Su Weifeng also said with a smile. The BMW X7 was parked near the Beast Bar. The two got in the car. Chu Xiao stepped on the accelerator and the BMW jumped out, scaring Su Weifeng. Chu Xiaotu talked and laughed with Su Weifeng while driving along the way and soon arrived at the Oriental Hotel. Chu Xiaotu was very skilled in driving during the whole journey and her speed was normal at 60 to 70 miles per hour. This was not normal. A few days ago, Chu Xiaotu was driving steadily at a speed of 20 miles per hour. This level of improvement was too fast. Su Weifeng's heart was pounding. When they arrived in the room, Chu Xiaotu went to take a shower. Su Weifeng was lying on the bed and looking at his phone. In fact, his attention was on Chu Xiaotu in the bathroom, and he listened carefully to the movement inside with his ears erect. After a while, Chu Xiaotu came into Su Weifeng's room wrapped in a bath towel. Chu Xiaotu's exposed shoulders were still steaming. Her originally fair skin was a little rosy due to the hot water, and her little face was also red, like a ripe apple. Very tempting. Hubby, go take a shower quickly, I can't wait. Chu Xiaotu twisted her body and said in a fatherly voice, which made Su Weifeng feel numb. Okay, I'll go right away. The smile on Su Weifeng's face became even stronger, and he hurried into the bathroom. As soon as Su Weifeng entered the bathroom, the smile on his face disappeared. There was still thick fog and a faint fragrance in the bathroom. This fragrance was not the fragrance of Chu Xiaotu, but more like the smell of perfume. Suddenly, he remembered that Chu Xiaotu had this smell today, a smell of perfume, and Chu Xiaotu never sprayed perfume at ordinary times, and her body was always lightly scented. Just as he was thinking, Su Weifeng suddenly felt the world spinning and fell heavily on the floor of the bathroom. Husband, what's wrong with you? Did you slip? Chu Xiaotu's somewhat anxious voice came from outside. Chu Xiaotu called a few times, but there was still no sound in the bathroom. The bathroom door slowly opened, and Chu Xiaotu, wearing a bathrobe, walked in front of Su Weifeng. Husband, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. Chu Xiaotu shook Su Weifeng hard. Her voice was already crying, but Su Weifeng still didn't respond. Chu Xiaotu still didn't give up, and continued to shout. After a few minutes, Chu Xiaotu finally stopped, and the corners of her mouth suddenly curled up. Chu Xiaotu dragged Su Weifeng into the room, and threw him on the bed. She found a rope from somewhere, and tied up Su Weifeng's hands and feet. Then she let out a long breath and finally relaxed. After a rest, Chu Xiaotu began to search for something in various places in the room. From Su Weifeng's room, she found Chu Xiaotu's room, the gym, the restaurant, and the living room. After a long time, she finally returned to Su Weifeng's room. Chu Xiaotu looked very angry, as if she didn't find what she wanted. At this time, Su Weifeng's eyelids suddenly trembled, and he slowly opened his eyes. What came into view was Chu Xiaotu's pretty face, but at this time, Chu Xiaotu's face was no longer as cute and well behaved as usual, but stared at Su Weifeng fiercely, with a frost on her face. Su Weifeng had never seen Chu Xiaotu like this before. Husband, are you awake? Why don't you sleep a little longer? Chu Xiaotu laughed strangely. You are not Xiaotu. Where is Xiaotu? Su Weifeng frowned and said angrily. Haha, you actually know that I'm not that girl. It seems that you are not too stupid. Chu Xiaotu laughed, and her voice changed, becoming more mature and charming. What did you do to Xiaotu? Su Weifeng asked anxiously. Oh, boy, you are quite infatuated. I didn't see it. Chu Xiaotu said with a smile. Now you should take care of yourself. Chu Xiaotu said again. What do you want? Just tell me how much money you want to let Chu Xiaotu go. Su Weifeng had already guessed that this woman came for something, but he didn't know what she wanted for a while. You are quite sensible, hahaha. It's easy to want that girl. Where did you get that purple jade bracelet? Do you have anything else made of the same material besides that bracelet? Chu Xiaotu said seriously, staring at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng's heart moved, and he had roughly understood that it was the jade bracelet that caused the trouble. Now he regretted giving the jade bracelet to Chu Xiaotu. As the saying goes, wealth should not be exposed. Most people may just think that the jade bracelet is very beautiful and of good quality, but anyone with a discerning eye can see the value of the jade bracelet at a glance. It is indeed easy to be targeted by people if you carry something worth hundreds of millions everywhere. Thinking of this, Su Weifeng couldn't help but regret it. So it was the jade bracelet. I cut it out when I was gambling on stones. I only made that one jade bracelet. The remaining scraps were sold to the gambling stone shop. Later, it seems that they were all sold by the boss. Su Weifeng said seriously. These are all easy to investigate, and there is no need to hide them. After hearing Su Weifeng's words, the girl's face suddenly became gloomy. She didn't suspect that Su Weifeng was deceiving her. They had also done an investigation. The results of the investigation were the same as Su Weifeng said. This purple jade did make a finished bracelet. However, she still did not give up the last bit of hope, hoping to receive something from Su Weifeng, which was a bit unexpected, but it was obviously gone, which disappointed her greatly. Chapter 900. Who are you? Since you no longer have Xiao, the woman sneered, her eyes full of cruelty. Then let Xiao to go. Su Weifeng said loudly. Ha ha ha, boy, are you really stupid or just pretending to be stupid? Without Xiao, what qualifications do you have to negotiate with me? Without Xiao, you can die. The woman had changed into a tight leather jacket at this time. Her hand slid across her legs, and suddenly a small dagger appeared in her hand, shining with a cold light, which made people's hair stand on end. As for the little girl, you can rest assured. How can such a beautiful girl die? That would be too wasteful. Ha ha ha. The woman laughed obscenely. Who are you? Su Weifeng said angrily, with a nameless fire in his heart that was about to explode. It doesn't matter who I am. The dead don't need to know my name. Don't be lucky. No one can save you today. The woman said. Do you think you have internal strength and this rope can't trap you? Ha ha ha. The woman said. How do you know I have internal strength? Su Weifeng asked curiously. Do you think we red killers are idiots? Of course, we have to investigate your background to deal with you. You can beat that monster gorilla, which is not something a normal person can do. Unless it is easy to judge, you should be a yellow level warrior. Otherwise, do you think I still need to hang out in your bar for 2 days and seduce you? If you were a handsome guy, I wouldn't mind playing with you, but it's a pity that you really don't have an appetite. The woman said disdainfully. Su Weifeng was depressed. Am I that bad? But you don't care. But I still care. I forgot to tell you that you were just hit by my red spider lily venom, which is not as simple as knocking you out. The woman said proudly. What is this? Why haven't I heard of it? I didn't see any flowers in the bathroom just now. Su Weifeng really hadn't heard of this name, but he had heard that there were red spider lilies in Huangquan, but those were all legendary places, all superstition, and he didn't believe that the flowers came from there. Ha ha ha, this red spider lily is a rare flower overseas. It is not found everywhere, and it blooms only once in 10 years. This flower can extract a kind of venom, which is colorless and odorless, but highly toxic, almost as toxic as the venom of a king cobra. I just put a drop of it in the bathtub, and the heat of the water is enough to evaporate its toxin. Of course, I took an antidote. Your body is already full of its toxins. It will paralyze your body, and even if you have internal force, it will prevent your internal force from running. If you force your internal force to run, you will die faster. This is also why the red spider lily is called a rare flower. It can pollute internal force and attach to it, not only hindering the running of internal force, but when you run near internal force, it will also follow the internal force to poison every meridian in your body. Ha ha ha. The woman laughed wildly. She didn't care about Su Weifeng at all. In her eyes, Su Weifeng was already a dead man. But before her laughter stopped, she was stunned by the scene in front of her, and her mouth could not close for a long time. Su Weifeng slowly sat up from the bed, and the ropes on his hands and feet were easily broken. He smiled at the woman, and his smile was indescribably weird. Ah, this is impossible. How did you do it? You are obviously poisoned. Even if you have internal strength, it is impossible that nothing happened. The woman shouted in surprise. I felt something was wrong as soon as I entered the bathroom. The bathroom was full of the smell of your perfume, and it was much stronger than the smell on you. This means that you sprayed perfume in the bathroom, and you didn't spray it on yourself, but in the bathroom. You must want to cover up some smell. Even if you know that this toxin is colorless and odorless, you are still worried, so you spray perfume again. Su Weifeng smiled and said calmly, is the perfume smell so strong? I sprayed light perfume. The woman frowned and said she was used to the smell of her body and didn't think it was strong. 02 never wears perfume, even if it's light perfume. It's very abnormal. Su Weifeng said. So you have already found out that I'm not her? The woman's face was gloomy. I felt that you were abnormal as soon as I entered the bar. 02 never seduced me. This is not the most important thing. The most important thing that made me sure that you are not 02 is that you drive too skillfully. Do you know 02's driving skills? She drives at a steady 20 miles per hour wherever she goes. You think your disguise is very similar, but the details are too bad. Su Weifeng shook his head and sighed. The woman's head was full of black lines. She didn't expect that she was exposed because of driving. How could she think that a girl driving such a good car would drive at 20 miles per hour? This is why she knew in advance that it was easy to be exposed. Not everyone can drive at 20 miles per hour. You found it wrong. How could you hold your breath for so long? I obviously waited for a long time before entering. The woman frowned and said in disbelief. I didn't hold my breath. I just used my internal force to expel all the toxins in my body as soon as possible. Su Weifeng said with a smile. So you didn't faint from the beginning? You were just pretending? The woman finally realized that she had been fooled all along. Of course, you want to make me faint? You're far from it. Su Weifeng sneered. He has been in the mercenary world for so many years, and he has come into contact with all kinds of assassinations and poisonings. Since he has already discovered that this woman is not Chu 02, how could he fall for it again? Okay, but don't be too proud too soon. You are not the only one who is yellow level. The woman sneered, used her internal force, and slashed the dagger in her hand towards Su Weifeng. The dagger in the woman's hand was like a butterfly flying among the flowers, flying up and down, and instantly slashed 36 times. Each knife did not leave Su Weifeng's vitals, and each knife was directly connected seamlessly, not giving Su Weifeng a chance to fight back. However, Su Weifeng was calm. He was not panicked at all under the knife net. He moved left, right, and back. He was able to dodge it by a hair's breadth every time. This made the woman a little annoyed. How could it be possible? She had been famous for her sharp knife for many years. She had killed countless people, but no one could dodge it. Moreover, she had no internal strength at that time. Now that her internal strength has improved, her speed and strength are even more incomparable. She was confident that she could kill him with just one knife. Gradually, the woman smiled. Su Weifeng was finally forced to the wall by the woman's sharp knife. Let's see where you can hide. The woman sneered in her heart. The woman was feeling proud and suddenly found that the man was also smiling. She could feel that it was a mocking smile. This boy was about to die, but he dared to mock her. She was furious in her heart. Go to hell. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.